I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody that is out tonight to join us for our regularly scheduled city council meeting. We will begin this meeting with an invocation offered by Reverend Kathy Bilderback, I believe. Yes, there she is. Excellent. Of the Evergreen Heights Mennonite Church. Following the invocation, we will then have the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll please stand.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and pray. Let us pray. God of all life and hope, we pause before this meeting acknowledging that we need your presence and need your guidance. So guide this meeting. Thank you for all that have prepared, give time and gifts to prepare for this meeting. Thank you for the agenda that's set before us. And now we pray that you would provide wisdom and guidance and clarity for the mayor and the city. Thank you, city council. Thank you for their service to the city, and thank you for this city. And help us all to seek the welfare of all and seek your peace and your guidance. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Ms. Bilderbach, for being here for that and starting us off with prayer, and also for the pledge from everybody. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Allgood.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Jody.
Here.
Stodic.
Here.
Register. Here. McGee.
Here. Very good. So let the record reflect that we are full and accounted for. We do have Councilman Allgood, who is joining us via Zoom. So we welcome you from home, Councilor. We expect that you are in a suit and tie at home and not in your pajamas yet. So we're grateful for technology that you're able to join us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You are welcome. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any of the council members? Okay. Let the record reflect that there are none. We do have one special presentation this evening. Becca Bowman, Executive Director of Casa of Southwest Idaho. If you please come forward, and the time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me time to be here today and share with you about what we get to do here in Caldwell and the whole 3rd Judicial District. I'm the Executive Director for Casa of Southwest Idaho, and we are right here in Caldwell. We actually just live dangerously close to Indian Creek Plaza and all the delicious things that are there, including Flying M. I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, and then take you through some of the impacts that we've been able to have over this last year. We get to serve kids who are in foster care, and we have volunteer members like you who come in and are trained to become court-appointed special advocates, also called CASA advocates, and they, all along a child's time in care, they are there to ensure that the child's best interests and their needs are being seen. And in order to give you a glimpse of why that's so important, I just want to give you a little bit of perspective for kids who are coming into care. Children who come into care, the ones that we serve have been significantly abused, either physically or sexually abused or neglected. They've been through so much trauma. And when we come into those homes, and we don't pull them out of the homes, but the caseworkers, the police, and they decide that the best place for them is foster care. We look out from the outside and we think we're rescuing them, but these kids, it's terrifying. It's terrifying for them to be pulled out of what they know, what is their normal, and then they're brought in to go live with strangers and to have somebody who they don't even know determine who is going to be their family and where they're going to go to school and if they're ever going to get to see their siblings again. And our volunteers get to come in and be on a case with these kids, and they all along the way are advocating for their best interests. And so we have a little graph as far as, just to explain what it is that we do exactly. So our volunteers come in and they learn all that they can about the child. They will go visit the child at least once a month. They build some beautiful relationships. We have volunteers the kids have reunified with their families or been adopted, the cases have been closed, and they still stay in touch with these kids because they have formed such beautiful mentoring relationships with them. They also go and talk to anybody who pertains to the child's life. So teachers, therapists, doctors, biological parents, foster parents, any of those individuals they talk to get a picture of how the child is doing currently in that situation, and then what is best for the child down the road. And then they make recommendations. They put all of that, their factual findings, into a report, and they go inform the judge what they think out of those facts that they found. There are some recommendations there. And just to give you a couple of ideas, I have a story of just a fantastic volunteer of ours. She shared this with me. She did change some things, so this is not identifiable because these are confidential cases, but it gives you a really great idea of what it looks like on a daily basis to be a Casa advocate. She said, when I did my first home visit with 8-year-old Caden, I asked him to tell me his favorite part of the day of school, hoping to gain some insight into his likes and his interests. His face lit up and he said, well, today I finally got to go to PE again. And I asked, oh, does your class not have PE very often? And he said, no, we have it a lot, but I can't go because I don't have my inhaler, and a lot of times I have to leave for my appointments. It turns out Caden's been sitting on the bleachers during PE, unable to participate because the school was concerned he would have an asthma attack. And after repeated attempts to have a new inhaler sent in, they finally stopped sending notes home. Additionally, he was being pulled out of school twice a week for counseling, leaving at 2:30 on those days instead of the normal 3:50 dismissal time. His second grade class was scheduled for specials during that last hour of the day, rotating through music, PE, library, computers, and art, so he frequently missed those supplemental but vital opportunities. He also missed the last recess of the day, which caused a notable increase in agitation and negative behaviors for the rest of the day. I spent the afternoon making calls. I contacted his counselor's office to look into alternate appointment times, and none were available. She also advised that they did not actually have individual counseling for him. They were short-staffed, and he'd been participating in a Kids with Divorced Parents group. I called his pediatrician to see how to refill the inhaler, and he had been discharged from the practice because of multiple missed appointments. I called a different pediatrician, and then finally a third office I contacted was accepting new Medicaid patients. There was an appeal, I'm going to skip over that part. I contacted Caden's grandma to see if he had any clothes that had been left at her house. The pants he was wearing were too small, and they were one of 2 pairs he had. She said his clothes had been in a garage bag that had gotten wet and mildewed, and they had to be thrown away. She did, however, have a current inhaler for him, and she agreed to drop it off at school the next morning. Finally, some progress. From there, things began to fall into place. I put in an online clothing order with the wardrobe and requested their urgent timeline to pick up the order. And I looked for a counseling agency that had a counselor available and realized that his school was part of a program that could provide in-school counseling. By the end of the week, Caden was successfully enrolled into Pathways Counseling and would no longer need to miss 90 minutes of school twice a week. He would be pulled for 3 20-minute sessions each week and then return to class. I picked up his clothing from the wardrobe, and he was delighted to have new clothes. His Medicaid Healthy Connections appeal was approved, and he was established with a wonderful pediatrician, and the school nurse allowed him to rejoin his class during PE, and he was glowing when he told me about playing basketball. He told me he would probably be a professional basketball player because he was already the tallest kid in his class, and that meant he could almost touch the bottom of the net when he jumped as high as he could. There's still lots of transitions happening in Caden's world. He's had 2 new caseworkers in the last month, but I'm able to help bridge the gap and make introductions and fill them in on some of the relevant history. Through various community partners, including Casa, Pathways, and the Wardrobe, Caden's educational needs, behavioral health needs, medical needs, and food and shelter needs are being met effectively. And all Caden has to worry about is making more baskets and working his way into the professional basketball arena. I just love that story because it gives a small glimpse into what over 100 volunteers are doing on a weekly basis in our community. So I'd love to show you my next slide, which is just demonstrating the effectiveness of a Casa advocate. And you guys can see that we have some incredible statistics that demonstrate the value of having somebody like a Casa on a foster child's case. They're 50% less likely to re-enter care. So our volunteers are helping ensure that our kids are finding stable, safe, permanent homes faster, and they never re-enter care again. They're also more likely to do better in school. The statistic is huge. They're 800% more likely to graduate high school when they have a Casa on their case helping advocate for them. And it's not on here, but they are 45% less likely to enter the juvenile detention center system. And that is equally huge when you think about the cycle that we're interrupting, the trauma of cycle we're interrupting, and the ripple effect of that as they grow and in our community. This year, we've been able to do some incredible things, and if you could go to, I have a little quote from one of our volunteers that I wanted to share. They said, "We're so thankful we've been able to be there as a consistent, caring presence during uncertain times in the lives of several of our kids. When placements have disrupted or caseworkers have left, we've been able to keep showing up. Besides advocating for their interest in court, we hope and pray that just being there is giving the message that they are loved and valued." And that is what is so huge about these kids, what they've gone through. Often sends a message that they are not important or loved or valued, and we get to come in and tell them very, very differently. This is a little glimpse of what we as a program have gotten to accomplish. We're very proud that over this last year, we've been able to train 50 new community members to be Casa advocates and community outreach volunteers. And we have served 612 children. When we think about that, that is just right here in the 3rd Judicial District. 90% of our cases come from Canyon County. So they're all right here in our neighborhoods. These kids are not somebody else's children. They are our community's children. They're our children. And it's an honor to serve them. We had 139 active volunteers in Casa, and we have actually seen such an amazing response from our community that we have raised $100,000 more this year to bring in additional staff to support our growing program, and incredibly have an 81% retention rate with our volunteers. They stick around. National retention rate for nonprofits is 65%. So we're really proud of that 81% and for our volunteers who stick around for the long haul. And just to give you a glimpse of where we need to go, we're not there yet. We haven't arrived. Not all the kids have advocates yet. We have approximately 100 children who still do not have an advocate, many of those teenagers, because they desperately need one. So we have our eyes focused on that goal, and I know that together with our community, we can make that happen in the next year and a half is what we're going for. We need 167 volunteers total, and we need approximately $200,000 in funding that we're working hard to do through fundraising and partnerships and individual donors. So we would love, I have another slide just to show how folks can connect with us. We have, we're on social media, come see us. Also on our website, there's a great place to go to read more about what it looks like to volunteer, to donate, and so we would welcome partnership from the community of Caldwell. So thank you so much for giving me time to share about this. I would love to engage in more conversation if any of you are interested in learning more. And I hope you will continue to see us around the community because we want to be a pillar here. We want to be involved and making a difference. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Becca, for coming and for, I think, enlightening all of us on what you all do. It really is performing miracles every day. So
yeah,
it's so appreciated. Any comments or any questions from any of the council?
Mr. Mayor, you might remind everybody what the acronym CASA stands for.
Yes, it's Court Appointed Special Advocate. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the only special presentation we had tonight. So is there any audience participation concerning an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Maybe we'll start on our left and work towards our right. Does that sound all right? Mr. Summers, we'll start with you. If you could limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, that would be appreciated.
Hope I wouldn't come close to 5 minutes.
That sounds even better.
Mr. Mayor, council, members of council, I'm Jerry Summers, 1001 Blaine Street here in Caldwell. I'm here as two-part. I'm here as a father, and I'm here as the director of the Chamber of Commerce. Many of you may or may not know, my daughter was involved in a traffic crash on 10th and Cleveland Boulevard early Sunday morning. She was hit by a juvenile who was intoxicated in a stolen car going the wrong direction down Cleveland Boulevard. She's fine. She sustained a broken arm and some stitches. But in asking her how she felt about the incident and how she was treated, she had some wonderful things to say specifically about the Caldwell Police Department and Officer Talon Derrick, as well as the first responders. She said they were compassionate, they were kind, and had nothing but good things to say about it. So I wanted to come here and let you, as the city officials, know that we have a terrific police department who's doing a wonderful job. I appreciate it as a father. I definitely appreciate it as the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. And I just wanted to let you know that this police department, under the leadership of Chief Ingram, is showing what Caldwell lifestyle is all about and why it's such a special place. And Chief, I want to thank you personally. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. We appreciate that, and we appreciate all you do for Caldwell as well. So keep up the great work. And I think right here, correct? Come on forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Mayor, I'm here to speak specifically to you. I'm Lieutenant Amy from the Salvation Army here in Caldwell. I just have a certificate of appreciation. I understand you were the driving force behind the first annual Battle of the Credit Union food drive at the Spuds Games. We collected almost 2 tons of food. Typically, we serve about 500 to 600 individuals a month. The last couple months, the need has gone up to about 800, average of 800 a month for June and July. So that food is really going to help us out a lot, and I can't thank you enough for your support of the Salvation Army. So
Well, thank you. Yes,
yeah.
actually, I'll come down there. Can we get a picture? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Over here.
There we go. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Amy. That really does mean a lot. So a lot of people ask me, you know, what's one of the best things about being the mayor, and this is one of them for sure, is being able to just impact your community in a positive way. That was a great program they were able to do. And yeah, 2 tons of food. I mean, I know every night the truck that came to pick it up, it was just full leaving, and it was so fun to be a part of that. And so, yeah, it was my pleasure to do that. So thank you so much for that recognition. I appreciate that so much. So very good. Yes, Mr. Palmer, please come forward. We got copies of the prepared statement now. Thank you.
All right, in case the power goes out, is that what this is for? You guys are prepared. Okay. Dear council members, on behalf of the Valley View School District, I'm here to share a short history of the district's efforts to provide input to both the Caldwell Planning and Zoning Commissioners and the City Council members. Valley View would also like to share why the district has decided to request donations from developers. The Valley View School District has provided letters of feedback for every development proposed within the district boundaries since September 2021. The letters consist of the school's capacity to educate children, as well as how many students are currently enrolled at each school. We make a point to share that 6 of Valley View's 7 schools, elementary schools, are over capacity, and that we are at a point where shifting attendance boundaries and adding more portable classrooms is no longer a viable solution to absorbing the growth of new developments into the school district. As a result, the Valley View School District has requested that the Caldwell City Council denies developments until a bond is approved to construct new schools. As you know, Valley View proposed a bond in March to construct 2 elementary schools as a long-term solution. However, the bond failed. As Superintendent Lisa Boyd stated in a letter to Caldwell City Council, quote, "Many patrons are so exhausted by the rapid growth that they vote no, thinking that it will stop growth, not realizing that the growth continues, but schools cannot be built. It forces us to cram more students into each classroom. This is not what is best for students, teachers, families, or communities. When schools are not built to accommodate students, it makes recruiting and retaining teachers more difficult and forces a higher student-to-teacher ratio, which can compromise the quality of attention and instruction students would otherwise receive." End quote. Since the bond failed, and seeing that the City Council will approve new development regardless of the impact it will have on schools, the Valley View School District decided to be proactive rather than doing nothing. That led the school district to consistently meet with willing developers to see if they would be interested in giving a donation of $500 per door. The goal is to pull all the developers' donations together in order to assist with mitigating the impact growth has on our schools. For example, if enough developers donate, the school district could purchase real estate for future school sites rather than strictly relying on property taxes to purchase land for future schools. We have met with many developers since that time and learned that there are 3 responses developers typically give when Valley View proposes the $500 per door. Some developers do not meet with us at all, and the city council approves the development. Other developers meet with us and tell us no, they will not donate land or funds to the school district. Those developers are still approved to move forward with construction. Another response developers give is yes. We understand the predicament new development brings to the Valley View School District, and we will help the community with a donation of $500 per door. Those developers know that they do not have to donate a single penny to the school district, and City Council would still approve of their development. Nevertheless, the developer still signs a donor agreement form along with an addendum stating when donations would be made to formalize the agreement. To be very clear, although Valley View is not in favor of new developments, we understand the reality that new developments will still be approved by the City Council. Therefore, on behalf of Valley View property owners, Valley View will accept donations of $500 per door rather than collecting $0 per door. The school district has received a variety of criticisms over this approach. Some applaud the school district and say, good for Valley View. If the City Council will approve developments regardless of the district's feedback, then Valley View might as well collect what they can from developers who are willing to donate. Others are shocked that we ask for only $500 per door. Why not $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, $20,000 per door, they ask. The answer to that question is simple. We have seen developers reject our proposal, still receive approval for construction, and Valley View receives $0. $500 per door is a consistent and transparent proposal and practice that most developers are willing to accept. Anything more is rejected by developers. The school district has almost zero leverage in this negotiation. When a developer agrees to donate, it does not mean that Valley View approves the development. It means we are doing the best we can to secure funds that are not strictly from taxpayers. Because as you know, developers are not legally obligated to pay impact fees to schools. Until state legislators decide to include school districts as recipients of impact fees, we are at the mercy of developers voluntarily donating funds to assist in mitigating the impact of growth and that it has on our schools. In conclusion, we understand that the City Council wants the best for our community by approving new developments in order to support the economy and to provide homes in a community that has a lack of housing options. Nevertheless, Valley View has a duty to the community to stay vocal about the impact it's having on our schools, especially at the elementary level at this time. Valley View School District has recently announced a bond for the construction of 2 elementary schools to alleviate crowding on the east and west sides of the district. It will also allow the district to purchase real estate for future school sites. Election day is August 30th. Whether the bond passes or fails, we will continue to provide feedback to our local leaders and seek donations from willing developers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joey. And maybe a couple questions.
Sure.
So, real quick, I appreciate that towards the end, that paragraph stating that City Council wants the best for the community, because I truly believe that everyone up here does want that.
I agree.
And I appreciate you also pointing out that it helps to drive the economy. So it's a difficult balance in that regards, and these fine gentlemen and lady get that opportunity to try to strike that balance, and I know that they do their best in doing that, and so I do appreciate you pointing that out towards the end there, because like I said, it's the chicken and the egg, which comes first, which comes last,
True.
They're not going to give money until there is overcrowding, and if there's overcrowding, then there's issues of, do we want more of it? So it's just this very, very delicate balance that we get to decide, these gentlemen and lady get to decide, every other week, so.
Yes, you captured the ordeal perfectly.
Yeah. any comments or questions for Mr. Palmer?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to clear something up too. There were a couple of different paragraphs where it said that we're just gonna approve it no matter what,
Mhm.
and they know they don't have to do anything. But this is the first time I've heard that you guys are actually requesting meetings with them. The only other time I heard about this was one of the developments where they gave 500, you came to that meeting, and it sounded like you were very much in favor of that development because they had offered that. So, no, I mean, I'm always looking for the letter from the school.
Mhm.
In the packet, I can see, this is one of the first times where I see where they've noted that there was that donation, but I just wanted, kind of put it out there that we're not just approving everything to approve it, whether they make donations or not.
Sure, I appreciate that comment. I think I would respond by saying, we are just talking about almost a 12-month period of when we've consistently provided that feedback, and we are noticing that despite the feedback and whether there's donations given or not, it's still approved.
Right.
So we're in a scenario where we're caught in the middle. How do we make the best of this situation on behalf of property owners in the Valley View School District? And then, to the other concern that you had about us being excited and wanting to approve of the development, if you listen closely to the words, I'm enthusiastic that the developer is actually willing to voluntarily give money. I'm not enthusiastic, I should say Valley View is not enthusiastic about the growth.
Right. I understand that.
I
and
appreciate
think
that.
there also has to be, obviously, there has to be something taken into consideration just to make it fair across the board, so it doesn't look like they're making donations and we're approving it, and the ones that aren't making donations, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like some
yes.
kind of consistency.
Yeah, not only consistent, but completely transparent. There's no backdoor deals, there's nothing shady going on. Everything is out in the open.
Any other, yes, Councilor McGee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Palmer. I just want to commend the Valley View District for being proactive in these discussions. Councilman Stoddard has been talking about this almost every meeting that we have a development in the Valley View School District, and rightfully so. At some point, we got to figure this out, right? And it probably doesn't rest in our laps. It probably rests in the laps of the legislature.
Correct.
But the fact that you are here publicly talking about this helps raise that issue. There's a problem, right? And there's a disconnect between the development and what we're doing in our schools. And so the fact that you guys are here talking about this, at least getting it out there publicly, I think is a good first step in order to try to get something done. So thank you.
And we appreciate you listening and for exploring this situation with us as we go.
Yeah, and I think maybe just one closing,
Sure.
comment, if there's any others, feel free, but one closing comment to look at other venues as well. Like Councilor McGee mentioned about the state legislature, really, I think the tide is pushing that way, and you'll see more people interested in perhaps allowing for impact fees with schools. There's other, associations, I better get this right, Southwest Building Contractors, Snake River, there we go, Snake River Building Contractors Association, it'd be great to reach out to them, and even the state level Building Contractors Association. They have some heavy lobby groups down at the Capitol, so it'd be good to reach out to those individuals or those organizations as well, I think, as the school district to express your concern. And I think a lot of the developers, at least the ones that I've talked about, are not totally against the impact fees for the schools. They get it, they understand that, let's bring everything on a level playing field. So if you could approach them too, I think that would be really beneficial also, on that. So I don't know how to contact them, but we could find that if you wanted to, so you could reach out to them also.
I appreciate the guidance and any connections that you could facilitate would be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. Thank you so much
Yep.
for being here. Okay, I know we had, I think, one more. Yes, if you could please come forward, state your name, and if you could limit your comments to 5 minutes, that would be appreciated.
My name is Jeffrey Noble. I'm ex-Navy, explosive ordnance. This is FBI Agent Ryan O'Neill's business card. I'm one of the many different people who have been working with FBI Agent Ryan O'Neill, the Attorney General, and ACLU in exposing corruption of Hoadley, Wyatt, former Mayor Nankolas, Sheriff Donahue, Sheriff Deputy Martin Flores, Idaho State Trooper Jason Cagle, and other cops.
So real quick, before you go forward, just want to make sure, so this is not an opportunity to come and disparage individuals or proclaim or make accusations or anything of that nature. It's more
Understood.
focused on the city, anything currently going on within the city. So ask you to keep your comments to that, away from any accusations, naming of individuals that you think have done wrong, anything of that nature.
and other police officers involved in corruption over the last 2 decades. The FBI assures all of us that their investigations have only just begun and that justice will be served. It is my goal to end the qualified immunity our police and elected or appointed officials hide behind and create lawsuits at taxpayers' expense. This is why Canyon County may lose their insurance charter this fall, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened to Caldwell in the near future after the corruption gets exposed. It's been going on for 20 years. I hope that you, our new mayor, and our new police chief, Bravo Zulu, can change all of that. Thank you and have a good night.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that very much. So, and I know that we are heading in a great direction. Chief Ingram's doing a wonderful job, which actually leads, I think that was the last of the comments. Just one last one real quick. Come on down.
So I just had a quick question. So there was supposed to be a workshop on the plan for the parking garage, and it was changed. So I just wanted to see where that was, and then had some possible suggestions. So the courthouse has a ginormous parking lot. It seats like no one seats in them. It has parking spots for like 200 to 400 parking spots. It's about 5 blocks from downtown Caldwell, and it's free parking. So I was wondering if the council and the mayor would suggest talking with the Canyon County about possibly using that parking lot during nighttime when there's low parking, and then possibly using it so that what is it called? Destination Caldwell could have signage to direct people over there to be able to have all of that parking used for free, so that if there was concerns about metering or parking, that you would have an extra 400 to approximately 400 parking spots. And then, did you guys have plans on going forward with that? Did you have any direction? That's my question.
Great question. I'm glad you're here tonight. So September 15th is a scheduled workshop to discuss all those parking issues in the downtown. So I'll just touch briefly, because like I said, we'll get more into it on the 15th of September. So I encourage you to come. It'll be at 5 o'clock. And then we'll be discussing a lot of that. So some of the discussions we've had, and Mr. Orton, I know, has been in these with the county, talking exactly about the lot that you were talking about, which he pulled up right there. You know, what can we do to really enhance is what we're looking at, the walkway. So if you park there, we need to make some improvements to get you from point A to point B.
Across the railroad
track.
track.
Very dark, there's railroad tracks, so we are starting to look into that. You know, can we improve the lighting? Can we extend our streetscape to that area? Even talking to the county about them kind of joining our winter wonderland, where they light up the courthouse with Christmas lights and things like that, just to make it almost like a destination in and of itself. So discussions are definitely ongoing on that, and September 15th will be the evening that we'll have that discussion for all the parking.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Councilman Williams?
Thank you, Dave, and forgive me, this is relative to the last speaker, but I always appreciate you being here and appreciate your comments. I just think it's important that it be stated, a lot of names were mentioned a moment ago, and nothing has been substantiated yet in a lot of cases with those people in particular, and so we need to be very careful that in these public comments, which are welcome, this is a city forum, and it's expected and invited that you would come and do this, but that this is not anything on record that is of fact when people share remarks like that. And so I want to be careful with some of the names that were mentioned, that we don't know, in fact, anything that is actionable at this time. Otherwise, the authorities would have taken action already. Indeed, there is an ongoing investigation, and I believe it's best we let the investigators do their job. Again, Dave, thank you for coming. Sorry I had to interrupt your comments for that, but I wasn't fast enough before.
Yeah. One last thing, and then, so in case there was future excess funds in the next year's budget, just made a possible suggestion that you could use that to build a parking garage if that was your future thoughts and plans, because you had a couple million this year. So maybe a future thought for if the parking garage goes forward, so thanks.
No, definitely, we are looking at that. So yes, thank you so much, and also thank you, Councilor Williams, for those comments. So very much appreciated and yeah, needed. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. And I believe that ends all those that wish to discuss on that, which I know talking about the great direction of our police department. Councilor Stoddard has a note that I believe he'd like to read that he found in his mailbox. I don't know if any other councilors did, but it was an anonymous note that I think would be good to read.
On a positive note with our police department, and I hope this doesn't go to the chief's head, I'll make sure it doesn't, but anyway, just kidding, Rex, just kidding. It was addressed to me, and it says, "I just want to thank you and the rest of the counselors for choosing Rex to be our chief. This guy is doing a great job and is not afraid of the challenges he's facing within our department. I don't know how to explain the atmosphere right now in our department, but Rex is a true leader and is definitely putting in the time and effort into righting the ship." Anonymous is just signed Caldwell Police Department, so I just wanted to pass that on to you, Rex, and the rest of the community too. So thanks, appreciate it.
Yes, I think we all echo those sentiments. We've seen a huge change, and we appreciate it very much. All the numerous hours that you're putting into the job right now. I know you're going to be here with us late into the night, so we appreciate that and everything. And you can just, there's a different vibe down there, so we appreciate that so much. So thank you. So that moves us on to the consent calendar. I do believe we have an amendment to the consent calendar, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody would like to make that motion.
Yes, Mayor.
Councilor Williams.
I move that consent calendar item number 6 be added to new business as item 1A for further discussion and consideration of this request.
Very good. So we have a motion to amend the consent calendar by removing item number 6, placing it as the first item, 1A, under new business. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Williams and a second from Councilor Stoddard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So with that, now the consent calendar as amended is before the council. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard for the approval of the amended consent calendar. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
McGee?
Yes. Yes.
Alden?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Register? Yes. Jody?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So that motion passes. Consent calendar as amended has been approved. You'll notice tonight we do not have the clickers. We are having some issues with the Zoom on that regard, so we just want to make sure that it was all very clear on that. So Debbie will be calling the roll tonight for that. Okay. So consent calendar has been approved. So that moves us to old business, which there is none, which then throws us right into that one item that was moved to the top of the new business, which was previously consent calendar item number 6, and now it's new business item 1A. Approved resolution authorizing the procurement of 2 Echo TM 2000 autonomous mowers in the amount of $38,508 for use by the Caldwell Event Center. And yes, Ms. Mitchell, if you please enlighten us on that.
I will do my best tonight. So Council, Mayor, you have before you a resolution to approve the acquisition of 2 additional autonomous mowers for use over at the Cleveland or Caldwell Event Center. This is specifically for Gabbiola Field. So a little history on how we got to this tonight. Back in March, we had the request to acquire 6 autonomous mowers. Those were for the golf course, 3 for the golf course, 2 for recreation, for Wolf Field and for another ballpark, and then 1 for the Parks Department. In discussions at that time back in March, we did talk to Juan Avila at the event center to ask him if these autonomous mowers would work at Gabbiola. At that time, it was decided, and the salesman said they may not work, so we did not put in the request to include these 2 mowers for Gabbiola. Since then, the installer has been out, installed at Purple Sage, installed at Wolf Field, and so we asked that installer to come and look at Gabbiola Field. And the installer felt confident that these 2 autonomous mowers would be able to work over here. Gabbiola Field is mowed prior to a couple years ago. If you know what a little garden lawn tractor is, staff would mow that field on a lawn tractor. So 6 hours every week to mow this field. Golf was very good at giving them one of their old mowers, and so that was able to reduce staff's time down by a couple hours to mow Gabbiola. So now these autonomous mowers can really provide some efficiency with staff and having to be out here mowing Gabbiola Field.
Very good. Thank you so much. I know I've seen them out a few times, the autonomous mowers seem to be doing, I know I was out actually walking out on Purple Sage where they're doing that in between, and it looked like they're doing a pretty good job. Is that kind of the feedback you've been getting, or?
That's the feedback I've been getting from Ken Wheeler on, the golf course with those mowers.
Okay. Any questions for Carol? Yes, Councilor McGee.
I'm gonna support this. I have an autonomous mower named Maxwell in my house. He's 12 years old. You may have some autonomous mowers at your house too, and Brent as well. So if you need some help, Carol, let us know.
I will.
Very good, excellent. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
In full transparency, Carol, the money is coming from what source so that the community knows where it's coming from?
Sure, absolutely. The funding is coming from our capital fund, and so that capital fund is what we call our Fund 50. It is used to provide capital acquisitions for departments that are funded with general fund support. So, and it's a request to use fund balance, but we just received our sales tax revenue, which also a portion of our sales tax revenue goes into the capital fund, and the capital fund also receives some property tax because it is an eligible fund that we're able to levy for. But we are about 15% of our collections for sales tax. So while the request is to use fund balance at this time, perhaps at the end of the fiscal year, we may not need to use the fund balance. We may have enough sales tax.
Very good, excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes, sorry, Councilor Allgood.
No. Carol, in our previous discussion, the discussion was on Gabiola Field that the terrain is so rough, unlike a golf course, that the mowers would have difficulty there. Is that not a concern anymore?
No, it's not. Thank you, Councilman Allgood, Mayor, Council. So originally it was a concern because of the terrain. You got the fair and the rodeo, and so this Gabiola Field gets used and trampled a lot, and so you have all these ruts in there. And so, yes, the salesman wasn't quite confident enough at the time to say, yes, let's invest in these mowers. But when the installer came out to install over at Wolf Field, we asked him to look at Gabiola, and he felt that even though we have those ruts there, that the mowers would be able to mow properly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Yes, and sorry, Councilman Allgood, I forgot you're out there. I'll make a note to remember. So, any other questions from the council or comments? Okay, so we have a motion in regards to, again, this is new business action item number 1A regarding the purchase of the autonomous mowers. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard for the approval of this item. And this is a procurement, not a contract, so we can do this by voice vote. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Very good. Okay, so now that moves us on to new business action item number 1. This is to accept the FY 2023 tentative budget and set the public hearing date for Thursday, August 18th, 2022 at 6 p.m., 2 weeks from this evening. And Carol, you're doing this? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight you have before you your fiscal year 2023 budget. The request tonight is to host a public hearing on Thursday, August 18th at 6 o'clock in this room to allow the public comment on your budget. So at this time, we're just asking for the public hearing, but your fiscal year 23 expenditures that's being proposed are $122,191,898. And with that, I'll stand for questions for the request for the public hearing.
Very good. And then again, just to clarify, this is just solely setting the date 2 weeks from tonight for that public hearing item.
Correct, that is correct.
Any questions from council? Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard to, again, set the date for the public hearing for the 2023 tentative budget for Thursday, August 18th, 2022 at 6 p.m. here in this room. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So 2 weeks from tonight. So, very good. So that moves us on to action item number 2, accept the notice of a public hearing to be held on Thursday, August 18th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to consider an increase of fees over 5% of that previously charged for Caldwell Event Center, City Clerk, Caldwell Golf Courses, Planning and Zoning, and Caldwell Parks and Caldwell Recreation Department, including new fees and the increase to or creation of fines. And is this you also, Rochelle? You're up to bat.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I am here tonight to request for a public hearing 2 weeks from today, Thursday, at this same location, to review the fees and fee increases that are over 5%, new fees as well for the Caldwell Event Center, the City Clerk, the Fire, the Golf Courses, Library, Planning and Zoning, and Parks and Recreation. So I ask that you please approve that request for the public hearing 2 weeks from today.
Very good. And this is similar to the previous one, we're setting the date for that
Setting the
hearing.
date,
And then these fees were all, if you all remember, when we went through a budget workshop, were all presented to the council at that time, those proposals. So, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, just point of clarification. My eyes are getting bad, I understand. I didn't see library listed in the action item. It's possible that I didn't, but I heard you mention the library.
Yes, library is in there, and it is listed on the notice.
So yeah, I think so it sounds like in the notice that went out, it was listed, so we should be good. Mr. Waterman can counter in on that. Just didn't get carried into the agenda that we have before us tonight. Does that sound accurate? Oh, no, that's all right. So the notice was listed as she read it, that went out to the public in our agenda. It does not list it, so it looks like it was just not included in the agenda, but the notice did include it, so we should be good for that. Is that correct?
Then, Mr. Mayor, probably include that in the motion, just for clarity. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just one note, Mayor and Council, this is just for new fees and the 5% fees. The all city fees approval will come before you in your September 1st meeting. So then you'll have that vote on all the city fees at that one.
Excellent. Great way to start the month of September. So, the meeting. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move to accept the notice of a public hearing, including library.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Register to, again, set the date of August 18th, 2022, 6 p.m. here in this room for consideration of increase of fees over 5% and new fees, as was mentioned in the motion and in the report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That moves us on to new business action item number 3, public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment for the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG 2022 program year, annual action plan for housing and urban development. Carrie, it is all yours.
So good evening, council members and mayor. I am Carrie Foster. I'm the Community Development Block Grant Specialist for the city. And joining via Zoom is Elizabeth McNanny, our CDBG consultant. And as we prepare to submit our HUD Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, we are here to accept any final public comments during tonight's public hearing. And we would also welcome any questions from council members prior to a vote to approve our submission.
Very good. Any questions for Carrie? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Is there any discussion or any motions for this action item? Oh, actually, hold on real quick. Do we have any public comment? Do we have anybody? Yes, I just read that, like, public hearing, so. Oh, do we have a few? Okay, so we do have a few. I apologize for that. So, there's nobody signed up in favor or neutral, but we do have a few signed up in opposition to this request. So we'll start at the top and work our way to, now there's a few that did say they did not want to testify, so I'll just double check with you, make sure you haven't changed your mind. First one signed up is, I believe it's Sari Judd. Is that correct? Yeah, very good. Okay, and Devin Douglas. No speak, okay. So, Emily Douglas did indicate that she'd like to speak on this item. Is that, is this the correct item, or was there a different one that you were? Okay. 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 I know, I was surprised that there's so many people who wanted to sign up on this, but you never know, so. Okay. So now I'm gonna go through these names too, just to make sure, on that. So the another name was Erica Maldonado. Is she here? Okay, is that for the other one? And then David Chambers. Okay, very good. So yes, if you wish to speak on that item, if you want to come up here, and Ms. Geyer will make sure we get your signature on the correct one, so, okay. Yeah, I think that would have been a first to have people, even one person speak on that, let alone 5, so. Carrie was getting a little nervous maybe there, so. So, well, it's an action item.
Yeah, I'm unclear myself.
Yeah, I didn't know how to make the motion. I think it's just to approve the annual action plan for the CDBG 2022 program. Yeah. Okay, so while they're filling that out, so this would be, again, this motion would be for accepting, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Carrie, but basically accepting the annual action plan for housing and urban development for the CDBG program for the year 2022.
It's the submittal of the action plan.
Okay, for the submittal of the action plan. So do we have a motion in that regard? Oh, yeah, we will need to do that. Thank you very much, keeping me in line tonight. So. And a second?
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Register to close the public hearing portion of this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we can move forward with that, motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
So
Councilor
the
Doty.
motion is to accept the annual action plan for housing and urban development for the CDBG 2022 program year.
Yes, for the
Is that correct?
submittal.
For the
of that.
submittal of that?
Yeah, okay.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Williams to approve the submittal for the annual action plan for CDBG 2022 program year. Can we do a voice vote on that?
No, it's.
Okay, so, okay, yep, so we'll do a roll call vote.
Jody,
Yes.
McGee. Yes. Williams,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Register. Yes. Dottie.
Yes.
Good, okay, so that motion passes. Do we need to close that public hearing, Adam?
Mr. Mayor, this was a public hearing followed by a resolution. My
Okay.
understanding is that Mr. McGee already closed the public
Okay.
hearing, so that item is done and we
Perfect.
can approve the resolution.
Thank you so much. So that moves us on to action item number 4, consider resolution authorizing the submittal of the CDBG 2022 action plan to the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the execution of the grant agreement upon HUD approval of the plan and receipt of the grant agreement. Is this you again, Carrie, or is this just that's what we just did, okay. And I'm like, this looks very familiar, so, okay. Very good. 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah. You thought it'd be a late night. We're just humming. That moves us on to action item number 5, public hearing, quasi judicial. So before I do read this, I'm gonna read opening statement regarding quasi judicial hearings. So a quasi judicial hearing involves the consideration of a land use request such as an annexation, rezone classification, or approval of a subdivision preliminary plat. Public hearing procedures as required by the Idaho Code are as follows. Oral and written testimony will be accepted from those who have signed in to speak prior to the hearing being declared open, which is what everybody just did. When providing testimony, please come to the podium and state your name and address, which will be included in the record. Staff will first present a report regarding the application being considered. After that, public testimony will be taken. The applicant or the applicant's representative will present first a summary of the request. After that, testimony of those in support will be taken, followed by those in neutral, and finally those in opposition of the request. The applicant will then be offered the opportunity to provide rebuttal testimony as necessary. The applicant in their presentation will be limited to 8 minutes or less. Others in support, neutral, opposition will be limited to 5 minutes or less in their public testimony. And we'd ask that you not include any repetitive testimony. After the rebuttal testimony is given, the public testimony portion of the public hearing will be closed and no new oral or written testimony will be allowed. So with that, moves us to, again, action item number 5, which is a quasi judicial public hearing. This is for case number ANN 2005, PUD 20-2002. A request by Steve Arnold of A-Team Land Consultants on behalf of Doppel Premier Properties for an annexation of parcels of approximately 30.21 acres, one parcel of 30.21 acres, and another parcel of approximately 0.10 acres. Is that correct? The little guy. With a zoning designation of R2 medium density residential. Concurrently, a request for a planned unit development for the collection subdivision consisting of 68 single-family lots and 74 townhome lots. Property is designated as medium density residential in the 2040 comprehensive plan. The subject property is located northeast of the corner of Laster Lane and South Florida Avenue, east of the Four Seasons subdivision. The hearing examiner forwarded this case with a recommendation of approval on June 28, 2022. And maybe real quick, if we could, I probably should have done this before, Mr. Foltz, do you mind introducing, we have some, I know you're new yourself, this is our new planning and zoning director, but he has some of his new staff members here as well. Do you mind introducing them? And then we'll move forward with the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council folks. Thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of the city of Caldwell. As many of you know, that I spent quite a few years working with the city and took a little trip down the road and worked for the county. So again, thank you for entrusting us to come together and build this new planning department. We were basically down to 2 people at one time, and so we're excited about having a lot of new folks on board. I feel like we have really developed a good team, and we got additional people coming on. But with that, I do want to make a couple of quick introductions. Again, my name is Steve Foltz, and again, I'm very, very pleased to be back with you. We did hire a deputy director, Robin Collins. Robin has come to us from the city of Eagle. I referenced Robin as kind of a Swiss Army planner. She actually, in addition to planning background, she has code enforcement, building inspector, building official, economic development, and a little bit of everything else. So we're very, very pleased to have Robin as part of our team, and has done a fantastic job for the first week and a half, and we expect great things from her, and I'm sure she will deliver. The second person that we have brought on is Julie Mccoy as our senior planner, not to be confused with the cruise director from the Love Boat, Julie McCoy. But we're very pleased. This is somebody that I actually brought along with me from the county. She has a couple of master's degrees and several years' experience in planning, and both on the park side of planning as well as opportunities, and working with us on the land use side with Canyon County. Was very impressed and was actually very fortunate that she came along with me from the county. So we're very, very pleased to have these two on board with us. As a quick note, we did hire Angelica Gomez as our new admin person. She started yesterday. She goes by the name Jelly. So if you hear somebody coming out of planning with Jelly, please do a quiet giggle through the process. But she's worked out extremely well, and we're getting ready to make an offer, or actually I think we have made an offer to another planning tech, and so we're getting up to where we need to be as far as personnel. We do beg your patience and my confidence in the team coming on. A lot of new people that are going to be doing great work, but again, they're very, very new. And when we look to Alex, who's done a great job, that he's only been here for 9 months, it continues to cause us to scratch our head to how well he has done in such a very, very short time. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me just a few minutes to introduce my team. And again, we're very, very excited to be part of it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you be a part of it too. And Alex is number 2 man on the totem pole after 9 months, so that's not too bad. So excellent, and we appreciate Alex. He's really been tugging the line in there where they've been so short-handed, short-staffed. So appreciate you sticking around and doing everything you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Alex Jones, Associate Planner. Today we have annexation and PUD for the collection subdivision. This development consists of 67 single-family lots and 74 townhome lots on 30.31 acres. This project is to be annexed and zoned as R2 medium-density residential. The development has 12% open space, and amenities provided are gazebos, a bike path, The garages will have EV charging built in and seating areas around the whole development. The density is 4.6 units per acre, which is under the 12 units per acre maximum allowed under an R2 PUD, and I stand for questions.
Very good. Okay. Short, sweet, to the point. Very good. Any questions from council in regards to this request for staff? Okay, looks like at the moment at least, you're off the hook. So we'll move into those in favor of this request. So we begin with Mr. John, is it Dopel? Did I say that correct? You can correct me if you like. Okay. Oh, Mr. Arnold is going to come forward on that. So, okay, if you'll just state your name and address for the record, and then 8 minutes is yours.
Sure. Do we have the presentation up? Can we get it up? Yep. Give it just a sec.
Yeah, no
We'll get
problem.
this up.
Don't worry, we won't start your time yet.
Mr. Mayor, while they're looking for that, on our copy of this, it shows on our copy 67 single-family lots, and on the agenda it shows 68, and then there's an acreage differential there too, 30.21 versus 30.31. Am I looking at the right one?
Let's see, so let me pull up my.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So I think, yeah, the difference on that is, so in the one on the agenda has two parcels, 30.21 and then .1, so that would add up to the 30.31. And then as far as the number of units, so it does say 68 single-family lots in the agenda, and on the request it does say 67 single-family lots. And it looks like the townhomes is correct on each of them. So maybe just, if you could address that,
Type
Mr.
of
Arnold, the number on that, if it's 67 or 68.
Thank you.
Okay, for the record, my name's Steve Arnold. I'm with 18 Land Consultants. Address 1785 Boise 83709. The way I counted them, so if you look at the map, I've got townhomes along the front and what we're calling cottage lots in the middle, and then on the far east we're doing estate lots. So we've got 74 townhomes, 44 single-family cottages, and 23 estate lots. Is what same overall density, the 4.65. We've done. Let's see. No, it doesn't work on the TV. Along Florida, we've done an extra wide buffer. The purpose of that was to limit the impact of the traffic on Florida on the subdivision. On Laster Extended, we're doing 15 feet wide per code. Reason being is we didn't see that it would have as much of an impact. Florida and Laster will be fully improved as a collector road. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, barely. Yeah, Florida and Laster will be improved as a collector road per city's request. And again, amenities as staff has presented, have got quite a bit throughout. One of the things that we're doing that I've had success in other subdivisions is in the townhomes, we're backing the homes up to a mu. So you got a big common open space in the middle, and then you do pathways throughout. Better put that down, I'm gonna shove someone in the eye. To give you the type of the housing, we're gonna be, on the towns, it's gonna be kind of a modern approach, and I believe that's in your packet. They'll be between 15 to 1,800 square feet, along with the cottages, approximately the same. And then when we get back to the estate lots, they'll probably range from 2,200 square feet to a 3,000 square foot. Each building, I know it's kind of confusing because a lot of people think that the, townhomes are rentals. They're not, they are platted on their own single-family lot, and the intent is to sell them. So in there, we've got townhomes, and then we've got a triplex. I think we've got maybe 3 triplexes, and the rest are towns. There will be CCNRs and an HOA that maintains the integrity of the subdivision. One of the amenities that we're providing throughout is pathways. And my experience with amenities, the pathway is the most utilized amenity in a subdivision. You know, a lot of people want to see tot lots and stuff. They're not utilized, but a pathway is utilized pretty much year-round. The developer is also the builder. He's building out the village that is just south of this. And they've done a pretty high-quality fourplex project there, and we're just going to take that and apply it to the townhomes. And we'll probably sell some of the single-family lots and then build on them as well. One thing to note, the median price home right now in Canyon County is $534. I mean, they've gotten to a point. Let me get to that slide. There's our landscape plan that shows. There's the house style. There's the median price home on the market right now in Canyon County. I mean, I know growth is, you know, painful for some jurisdictions and locals, but people are still coming here. You know, they still want to live here, and what happens is now we got these prices that my kids probably can't, well, my kids can't afford a home in there. My oldest got into a home when they were back in $150,000. Now it's just crazy, and the problem is there's a huge demand, but there is a lack of product type. We are providing a mixed use, and I think that'll appeal to a lot of the population out here. It was something that was suggested that we do the PUD in the beginning with the mix of housing type. Let me scroll through. Well, I guess in conclusion, you know, we do have complied with all the city code, the comp plan. We've made all the requested changes from staff and other agencies. Our open space and amenities exceed our requirements. And I think the key thing in this one is our mix of housing. I think that's a huge demand out here. I mean, what you guys have been seeing is 5,000 square foot lots every time, and that doesn't give the mix, and it gives, you know, production builders a huge advantage over other builders. And based on that, we ask for your approval. I can say that this project stalled. I think we prehapped with you, Mr. Wagner, back in the day. It stalled, and it really wasn't until Alex got here, it was probably November, is when it started moving. I mean, it stalled with staff for some time. We were slow on getting, you know, a traffic study completed, but Alex is the one that kicked it along, so I appreciate that.
So Alex fixed all my problems. Is that
No,
what you're
you
saying?
didn't.
Got it going. I'm fine with that.
We
He's a
did
great
exactly
planner.
what you recommended.
So real quick, before maybe we jump into council, if you don't mind maybe going back to the rendition that you had of the overall, and maybe just a little more description on, a few more back.
The color.
Yeah, the color one, nice pretty one, yeah. So maybe just a little more description on your open areas, kind of what the plan is there, what are you putting into those two areas?
Yeah, so we've got additional parking in the lower southwest corner. We figured we'd need some of that for the townhomes, although each townhome has a 20-foot garage setback and also a 2-car garage, but, you know, it seems like people put stuff in their garage other than their vehicles. So we've got extended parking there at the southwest, and then in the middle, at the two middle areas there, that's the Mew or Paseo that I was talking about, that will have a pathway. And then we put another park, at the, I guess, southeast corner, and then another park at the northeast corner. And as staff recommended, we put a pathway along the canal, and then we extended that pathway out to that bottom cul-de-sac. So we'll have a pretty well looped system that people can walk on. And then in the areas, the parkways, we've got these climbing rocks for kids, and then what happens is the dogs use them. But the gazebos and paseos in each one of the major parks, nothing really except for landscaping in the paseos that go north-south. So, and that pink lot up there should be brown. That's an oops. It's a townhome lot.
So kind of a gazebo, because I see, those three areas, looks like there's a gazebo planned in each one of those, is that correct?
Yeah, and the three major areas, yes.
Okay, very good, excellent, thank you so much. Okay, council, any questions for Mr. Arnold?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
Mr. Arnold, I asked the council, mayor's forgiveness, and staff for asking the same question all the time, but have you talked with the Valley View School District about this project?
No, we did not. No.
Do you intend to?
We can reach out.
We would appreciate that.
Yeah, no, we, at our hearing examiner, that was one of the things that he asked, and no one showed up at that time.
Okay. Second question I have is, what kind of pricing are we looking at for the townhomes and the other structures? Do you have any idea yet?
Mayor, Councilman Static, I would be lying to you with a number, any number today. But the intent is not, it's not gonna be subsidized housing, but it is hopefully gonna provide a product type that can become more affordable, especially the townhomes. We did townhomes like this in Cuna on a project right on the curve, and they initially started out at $230. But I'm seeing resale in them right now at the in the 400 range. Pricing right now with real estate, that's another hat that I wear, is we market subdivisions for our clients, but pricing right now it's a little bit stupid, and you're seeing the big builders, that we're competing against, giving a $30,000 incentive, along with dropping their price like 10 or 15 grand. So what we're seeing in real estate is things are back over the last 9-12 months. I mean, builders were making profits on these things that were significant, and it's because it was a supply and demand thing. Well, now that our interest rates have come up and supply has stagnated, pricing is coming down. How much that will be, I don't know. And like I said, whatever I tell you today will probably be wrong.
Okay. The other question I had is, you talked about this other development. Was that development on South Florida and Karcher?
Nope, this is just south of Laster.
Okay.
Almost,
You mentioned the quality type, and I know there's a Cedar Crossing something on the on South Florida, which is really nice quality.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. The interior quality and the exterior on these are very nice.
Okay.
And it's planned to have a pool and a clubhouse. Not to talk up my client, but he does a good build job.
Sure. And I think Mr. Palmer's still here, so I'm sure he has a business card he could give you if you do that. Thank you.
If I could touch bases on that. So CUNA School District's in the same boat. So I met with them quite a bit, and I got educated on funding that, made my eyes glaze over. I don't understand it. I don't understand how the bonding and the levies, well, now I do know those levies are for certain materials, bonds are for other, and the process of going through that is difficult, as explained to me on the bond, getting people to pass that. The thing that I don't understand is we got $1.3 billion surplus in our, in the state. I don't get why, and that's a higher legislative thing that it's above me, but I just don't understand why that money is not coming down to the school district. And like you said, Mr. Wagner, it really needs to start coming up there at that level. If you take 1,000 lots at $500, that's 500,000. That won't even get you a 10-acre area for a school. It's, there's gotta be something that's done at a higher level. I don't think that and it's an impact fee of $500 is gonna really make much of a dent in the problem.
Any other questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doty.
So are you opposed or for giving money to the school in regards to some of the issues we've heard earlier tonight?
It'd be something that we'd take under consideration. If it was a make or break deal, then probably not. We're only looking at probably around $6,000 for this subdivision. It's just, for me, and I'm not speaking for my client, it's an impact fee. Whether you call it whatever or not, it's like, we're not in a recession, but because of employment's high, but we've got two GDPs, 2 quarters that have gone down. You can't really call it anything else. You're trying to calculate a fee based on the impact of the development, and it's basically an impact fee. But like I said, it wouldn't be a make or break deal.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Williams.
First of all, let me just say, Mr. Arnold, I like the different housing opportunities in there, and I particularly appreciate the effort going into that, and I'm anxious to see if it comes to fruition, how it's all gonna come together. So let me just say, I'm a fan, really, of what you're proposing, but I wanna come back to what we're already talking about and say, especially in light of Mr. Palmer being here, it might be a drop in the bucket, but it's gonna go a long way, I think, when we as a council take note, which we do, and when builders take note, and maybe the electorate then begins to take note and realize approving a bond isn't as far a stretch as they thought it was, because we're all doing our part. And so I appreciate your willingness to meet with Mr. Palmer and discuss that and see where there might be some ground to be gained in that regard. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I just wanted to ask about the phasing and what an estimated timeline for build out would be on this project.
Mayor Wagner, Councilman Allgood, again, we would like to build it as quickly as we can, but I could give you estimated dates right now, and I'd probably be off. But to give you an idea, if the council approves it tonight, it'll take us between 4 to 6 months to get construction drawings approved. It takes us about 2 months to build it. 2 months to design it. It'll take us probably 2 months for the city engineer staff to review and approve it. And I may be off on those dates now, but and then, construction would occur, and it would probably take 6 months. And that would be the first phase, which are the townhomes. And then I would say we might start the second phase, which is all the cottage lots. Let me get there. Oops. Which are the pink lots there. We might start that, maybe when we get half of the homes built in the towns and sold. And, that market, let's say best case scenario is we're out of it in 9 months. And then, we'd submit the second phase, and again, the whole process goes over. I'm guessing we're in a 3 to 5 year time frame.
kind of like most likely, again, not buttoning it down, but most likely a three-phase type of a deal where you
Yeah,
do
oh.
the yellow first, and the purple, and then the orange as shown on here. Is that
Correct.
more or less the thought?
And that's what's on our phasing plan.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councilman Allgood?
That does, thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Arnold?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor
just
Stoddard.
one thing I just thought of, planning and zoning, for instance, are we gonna demand that the amenities, be in before the first phase of the project is gonna be completed? Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
The amenities, sorry, Mayor Wagner, Councilman Static, you're saying that once the one phase is built, those amenities are put in?
Yes.
Okay, not other okay.
We're reasonable.
That's great.
Yeah, it might be a matter of opinion with different people,
Yeah.
depending, thinking how we are or not, but, okay, any other questions for Mr. Arnold? Okay, thank you so much, appreciate that. And Jonathan, like, you do not wish to testify, is that correct? Okay, but in support of this, obviously. We had two other people that were signed up, in support, but indicated they did not wish to testify. That was Vicky De La Cruz and Joaquin De La Cruz. Is that correct? Are they here? Are they here? Is Vicky or Joaquin? Okay. So that they are not here. They did sign up in favor, so I guess it sounds like maybe they weren't, but that's where they're at. Not here, just again, Vicky and Joaquin are not here for this request, correct? Okay. Very good. So that is all. There's no, neutral or opposition, so that would mean no necessity for the rebuttal, on that. Unless there's any additional questions that the council would like to ask Mr. Arnold before we close the public hearing portion, or public testimony portion of this hearing. Okay, very good. Then do we have a motion from council to close the public testimony portion of this hearing? And a second? So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. So with that moves us on to discussion. Questions for staff. Staff is always open for questions if you have anything from them, and any discussion amongst yourselves in regards to this request. And again, this is for annexation 2005 and PUD 2002, annexation of 30.31 acres with a zoning designation of R2 medium density residential, and then also the plan unit development for the collection subdivision, which consists of 67 single family lots and 74 townhome lots. So the floor is now yours, council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I
Councilor
think
McGee.
maybe some of us are looking at our new instructions from Debbie, because we changed, the proceedings, the way we do things in the beginning part of the meeting. So, Mr. Mayor, if I understand, you are looking for a motion to approve the request?
Well, that means totally up to council, so you can ask questions of staff if you wish, you can discuss amongst yourself or ask questions amongst yourself, and then any motion, whether that's to approve or to deny, in that regards.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Allgood.
I can't see my maps very well, but does this new subdivision, if approved, would it make any connection to Laster? Would it make a through connection yet?
So the east-west connection for Laster Street?
Yes.
So it would not make a complete connection. It would on the the west end, it would make the connection to Florida Avenue, and Laster from there does continue to the west all the way up to Indiana. So it does have that connection there that it would provide, and then it does not go all the way to Lake Avenue to the east. So it would basically terminate at the end of the property there at the canal, with potential to extend to Lake Avenue in the future, but it would not connect to the east because the property doesn't touch that far, but it would provide that connection to Florida Avenue on the west, which Laster Street does go all the way to Indiana Avenue, continuing down to the west.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just couldn't tell how far it was gonna go there.
And Mr. Mayor, this is probably for staff also, just, I'm prepared to make a motion, I just wanna make sure it's the correct motion based on that 1/10 of a acre and the number of lots. If I'm correct, the acreage is 30.31 and and it's 67 single-family lots and 74 townhome lots. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, Mr. Mayor, ready to make a motion. The City Council accepts the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and recommendations herein. Based on the findings of facts and conclusion of law, the mayor and the City Council ordered that case number ANN-2005 PUD 2002, a request for annexation of 30.31 acres with the designation of R2 medium density residential and a planned unit development and preliminary plat for the collection subdivision with 67 single-family lots and 74 townhome lots is approved with the conditions of approval listed in section 15 to be enumerated in a development agreement.
Very good. So we have a motion for approval of the request. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of the request. Any discussion? Okay. Oh, yes, Councilor Doty.
Discuss it before we take a vote here. I just read it a little bit different than Councilman Williams. It was more off the cuff of, yeah, we'll talk to the school district, but it doesn't really matter what ends up happening with that it's a drop in the bucket and it just moves forward anyway. So I just wanted to get that out there before we take a vote on this, so.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
McGee?
Yes.
Aldred?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Register? Yes. Dottie?
Yes.
Doty?
No.
Okay, so motion passes with 5 in favor and 1 in opposition, in that regards. And we would encourage you, obviously it's not a condition of approval, but we encourage you to talk with Mr. Palmer. Even this evening would be great and get his information, in that regard. So it does look like a great development. So hopefully there can be a good partnership there. So, okay, is there a motion to close this public hearing item? In a second. Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard to close this public hearing item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That moves us on to, let me get to my. So that moves us on to number 6, yes. Should we, let's see, should there have been a bill and ordinance with this one since it was an annexation?
I did not receive that.
Okay. I'm gonna copy.
So it wants to come back.
Yeah, very good. So we can do that the next one.
And the development.
So the next item, number 6, is a quasi judicial item as well. So this is case number CMP 22-2 and annexation 22-5, SUP 22-5. Request by developer Nexio Capital, Justin Christiansen, to amend the 2040 comprehensive plan map from highway corridor to high density residential with a request for annexation of parcels R32786, 327851010, 4.95 acres more or less, with an R3 high density residential zoning designation, and concurrently a request for approval of a special use permit. Now, was that heard by the planning and zoning or the hearing examiner? So that's not before the council tonight, correct? The special use permit? Or
Correct.
is it?
It was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, very good. And so that would have been heard by them. The subject properties are located on the northeast corner of Celeste Avenue and Karcher Road at 12492 Karcher Road in Nampa, Idaho. But that's probably confusing because I just said Nampa and we're here in Caldwell. So zip code would be Nampa, Idaho. City limits is Caldwell. So you do see that on the outskirts quite a bit, but it is Caldwell. We can verify that. Yes, Councilor Doty has a Nampa address, but he's a Caldwell City Councilman, so it happens.
As far as I know.
Well, Nampa at one point had a Nampa zip code city council person, but was in Caldwell city limits, so they had to fix that really quick. So anyways, yes, we're getting off subject, I apologize. But again, the comprehensive plan map amendment annexation for R3 high-density residential is the request. So with that, Mr. Jones, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Alex Jones, Associate Planner again. Today we have an annexation, comp plan amendment, and preliminary plat for Carter Village, a multifamily development. The development consists of 5 buildings with a total of 96 residential units. The comp plan amendment is to change the zone designation from highway corridor to high-density residential. The developer has had a conversation with the school district, and they have come to an agreement which the applicant can speak on later. There is a correction that needs to be made in parts of the staff report where it lists 5.95 acres being annexed. It is 4.95 acres. I just want to put that on the record. And I stand for questions.
Very good, thank you so much. Is there any questions from council for staff?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Stoddard.
Is this the, Celeste, is that the street that was blocked off, across from Dakota Crossing? Is that correct?
Is your mic on?
Check.
Oh,
There
yeah.
we go.
Okay.
Sorry, not getting close enough. So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stoddard, so that's actually Canyon View Estates right here, right across the canal and drain from.
Off from going on to Carter, okay. And, okay, so Celeste is further east?
Yeah, Celeste is just a little bit east. It's the half-mile collector, so it's the road
Okay.
that's intended to be permanent there.
So I think just a quick history on that road. So it was allowed because there was no other way into that subdivision. And once there was another route in, then that was gonna be closed for safety purposes. Is that correct, Mr. Orton?
That's absolutely correct, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council and Mayor, I do have a comment that our attorney brought up. During the P&Z Commission hearing, they did approve the SUP and denied the annexation, but approved the comp plan amendment. That meeting was quite different.
Sounds like it.
For sure. There was a lot of debate, and that's why you might see that in the staff report. It's not something that is commonplace, especially if you approve the SUP. If you deny the annexation, it kind of defeats the point at that point. So just letting you know, that's why that's in the report.
Yeah, and so that's a recommendation from the.
Yes, recommendation for denial
P&Z
of the.
makes a recommendation on annexations, subdivisions, but they have the authority to make a final decision on an SUP. So they recommended denial, but in turn also approved the SUP that was part of their request, which you would need the annexation for the SUP.
Correct.
So,
Mr.
threw a
Mayor.
little mud in the water there. Yes, Councilor McGee.
Well, no, I think you're actually helping to explain it, but for this thick-headed guy, could you, this is the first time I've heard of this scenario, so could somebody walk me through that just maybe slowly one more time?
I'm good at slow. So when the commission heard this, there was lots of debate and different topics, especially about school, housing type, and all those concerns. And with those concerns, at first they were going to deny the SUP. They discussed it more, and they ended up approving it with some extra conditions, which the applicant did, supply. The annexation recommendation, they denied, which in the minutes, which were quite hard to understand. I know our city clerk, Debbie Geyer, had to go through those, and I feel for her on that one. But yeah, there was no real reason for the denial of the annexation when they also went with an approval of the comp plan amendment, which generally you would not want to amend the comp plan because that leads for the future, the next person wants to annex and gives them less restrictions that we could impose at that point. So it's more of city council gets to do the big final decision for this.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon to have like an SUP along with it, and then if, for example, either way, so let's say the SUP was approved, and then they recommended approval, it's based on the final approval of the city council. So if the city council were to deny it, then obviously the SUP goes away, and vice versa, same deal. If the SUP is denied and they recommend denial, then obviously if it's approved, then they have to go back to them for an SUP. So it's not uncommon to have that request, just the way that they approved some and didn't recommend approval on the other is where it gets a little.
Well, if Debbie didn't understand it, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, very good. It took me probably 15 years of planning to be able to understand it, so don't feel bad at all. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Stoddard.
Another question. Was there a traffic study done on this?
Yes.
And was it based on the improvement of Karcher, or was it based on the existing traffic pattern?
Mr. Mayor? Councilman Stoddard, I actually have not reviewed the traffic study for this development. It may be in the staff report. I'd be happy to see if I can find it and take a look. But I
Okay.
presume that it accounts for, Carter Road being improved because that's scheduled to begin next year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Counselor Stoddard. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you so much. So, let's stand by. So, yeah, so we do have a number of people signed up in favor of this request. Again, just to remind everyone, so the applicant will have 8 minutes. Anybody else in favor will be limited to 5 minutes. Same for anybody in neutral or in opposition in that regards. So the applicant, Nicolette Womack, if you'll please come forward, state your name and address, and then the 8 minutes is yours.
Thank
And
you,
we'll
Mayor.
let you know when you have 1 minute left, so know when to start wrapping it up.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Nicolette Womack, 1100 West Idaho Street, Suite 210, Boise, Idaho 83702. Thank you for having us tonight. It was a long P and Z night. And what actually ended up happening was there was a lot of discussion about denial and eventually approval, and a motion was made on the comp plan amendment that tied at the end. They never made any kind of formal decision. They ended up making motions and adopting recommendations of approval on the SUP and on the PUD, but they did not, the SUP and the comp plan amendment, but they didn't circle back to the other permit, basically. We can circle back to that. Also, earlier there was a statement about a preliminary plat. There's no plat involved in this permit. Thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate all the hard work and discussion on everyone's behalf, including the active neighborhood in this area to do the right thing on this site. This applicant team consists of Justin Christensen from Nexio Capital and his partner. I am a planner with Kimley Horn. Anthony Newton is a civil engineer with Kimley Horn, and Jeff Bauer is an attorney with Gibbons Pursley. Nexio Capital has done several multifamily and mixed-use developments in Utah and in Texas and other states as well. So they're very familiar with high-quality multifamily projects. Again, our site is located at the corner of Karcher and Celeste. This site is shown here. It consists of 2 parcels, and on the east side of the site is an industrial business, and that parcel line is adjacent a irrigation canal. I'll say Celeste Ave right now is a half-street section, so this project will be expanding Celeste and completing it along this site. Before you tonight is that comp plan amendment, annexation and zoning development agreement, and again, that special use permit was approved by P&Z. We started this process in October of 2021 with our roundtable. We moved forward with our traffic impact study and our neighborhood meeting, and then we submitted in March. That had our June, April, and that brings us to August tonight. So again, there's a future land use map amendment. The site is currently zoned a highway corridor, and in the comp plan, there's discussion about C2 or 3 zoning in this area. And as you might remember, in fall of last year, that zone was amended to no longer allow multifamily. So we'll need a comp plan amendment to do multifamily here. At that time, that was because the C2 and 3 zones were being consumed with multifamily instead of the commercial uses you guys were looking for. So particular to this site, we'll go through access in a minute and why commercial actually wouldn't be viable here. We are requesting R3 zoning, which is located in the immediate area as well. So we're at 4.95 acres, 96 units. That consists of 21 one-bedrooms, 54 two-bedrooms, and 21 three-bedroom units. I apologize, we like to keep north up, but this site is in terrible shape, so we are just going to make it work on PowerPoint. So parking and access, both access points come off of Celeste Ave. Again, with that shape, that top side right now is the irrigation canal, and that's where it would make it difficult for commercial to utilize this site, and they would actually be blocked off from the other commercial future uses to the east along Karcher. Again, we have revised our site between our site plan between Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. That was to accommodate the right-of-way dedication, that was confirmed. And with that, we are still meeting our, 147, parking spaces, which include 2 EV. 10%, is required, for open space, and we're at 10.1. That includes a dog park, tot lot, pickleball, barbecue area, and green space. And there'll be a 15-foot landscape buffer along Celeste and a 30-foot landscape buffer along Karcher. The elevations have been revised since Planning and Zoning Commission. There was a interest by the Planning and Zoning Commission to have lighter colors, so we picked a lighter, softer color scheme. The staff report included the right-of-way dedication, landscape buffers, street improvements, all of which we're in compliance with, cross-access utility stubs, and then the traffic mitigation. Just to set the scene on what's going on in the area, so our site, again, at Celeste and Karcher, fiscal year 2022 to 2028, there's those improvements at that intersection. There's a canal bridge underway, which was a condition of the project to the few parcels to the north of our site. And Celeste now connects to Homedale Road. There is some variance still between a half street and a full street section on Celeste, but we'll be completing a good part of it. This is the adopted design for Karcher Road. So it is a restricted crossing U-turn, which will greatly improve the current safety issues going on at this intersection. We have several letters of support, one of which includes economic development from the city of Caldwell. A lot of them discuss basically the high demand for multifamily housing in Caldwell and support for this project. Because schools were discussed a minute ago, we wanted to show you a few of our numbers. So again, we've agreed to that $500 per door request. In terms of looking at impact, our property is 96 units. 21 of those are 1 bedrooms, 54 of those are 2 bedrooms, which generally have a lesser impact than, say, 3-bedroom multifamily. But then these numbers actually come from West Ada School District, who's done a lot of detailed planning on student generation rate. And the metrics they're using to figure out school impacts, single family creates 0.7 students per unit. And multifamily actually generates 0.1, and that's not even analyzing for bedroom counts. So if we had been single family, this would have been 68 students to educate, and we're anticipating only about 10 from our project. So again, we understand what's going on with the school districts, and we're excited to help support addressing those needs, and we'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Williams.
First of all, let me say how excited I am to see a higher-end apartment development being proposed. I'd love to see more of that in Caldwell. But it pains me to be concerned about so many things on this site, and I just wanted to share it with you while you were here, and I'm sure I'll have a chance to discuss it later. But especially the traffic on that spot on Highway 55 is horrendous, and I'm concerned about the change of the master plan at this point to do something different than what we're already anticipating for our city. So I do have some reservations, but I did want to throw in while you were there how much I appreciate the plan in itself. I'm looking for that. I just don't know if I'm looking for it here.
Well, thank you for the feedback. I will say that when the master land use map was created and the comp plan was done, at that time they anticipated multifamily in places like this. What happened when you get into the implementation side of zoning code was a lot of the parcels that were C2 and 3 that were actually viable for commercial, those were getting taken up by multifamily. So that's not the case here. This parcel via access, if we went with commercial, we would have more access problems, we create more traffic, and that's why we feel multifamily is the best use for this site.
Brent, could you go, or Colette, I guess you have it, maybe to that slide that shows the medium U-turns
Yeah.
that are proposed? And then Brent, if you don't mind answering this, so this is what's been approved by ITD, is that correct? And that construction of those improvements is supposed to transpire when?
Mr. Mayor, they're meant to begin next year. It was scheduled for 2026. They moved that project up. I guess the right way to think about this technology that ITD is applying here, and it's something they vetted with broadly for actually the last 10 years. It was originally based on a corridor study. The city of Caldwell, Canyon County, city of Middleton, city of Nampa participated in. But it's basically the idea of taking I like to think of it like taking a roundabout and stretching it out along the highway. You eliminate those left turn movements. 60% of crashes, period, are arising at left turns, and 60% of fatalities are arising also at left turns. So those left turns in and out are the most dangerous movement, based on those statistics. So if you're able to stretch those out, so you're just making a right turn to leave Celeste Avenue, and then you have the opportunity to U-turn through what's called a loon, which I love because it sounds like crazy person. And then you merge the other direction,
Which
right?
most
So
engineers are.
the delay per vehicle that's anticipated at this kind of intersection, will tell you I'm extrapolating from an analysis that we had done on Florida, which would be treated the same way as Celeste because they're both half miles. That we saw a delay per vehicle estimated for this type of approach going from like 300 seconds for one vehicle down to 11 seconds to make the right turn and another 13 to complete the left turn and pass the same point that you would have with a left turn. So it's a great technology, great for safety improvements, great for reducing delay per vehicle, but yes, Mr. Mayor, to be short about it, this is what's proposed.
Okay, and yeah, that was just follow up. This is not just a pretty picture. This is what they will be building.
This is what's on their website, and again, this is not great for commercial uses.
Mhm.
People aren't interested in making these kinds of turns to get to, your fast food or whatever kind of typical use you're looking for at a commercial district. People who live in multifamily, they're used to this, they plan accordingly, they anticipated it when they rented, so.
Very good, thank you. Other questions? From council, or any council? Councilor McGee's screaming, so I'm waiting to see if he's gonna go or not.
Thinking about Brent extrapolating from analysis, so scratching my head.
Very good, excellent. Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it. So we do have a few people signed up in favor, as I mentioned. So Justin Christensen, is he on Zoom, or is he a UT? Does that mean Utah? I'm not. Oh, you're not gonna speak, okay. Jim Plasinski, is that at least close?
Yes, sir, that's actually perfect, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I haven't been called perfect for a long time, so I'll take it.
You must not be married.
Very good. So if you please just state your name and address, and then 5 minutes.
Yes,
Yours.
thank you, Mayor, thank you, Councilman. My name is Jim Plasinski. My address is 2945 First Lane East, Parma, Idaho. I am the owner of the proposed property. When we first moved there 17 years ago, we're horse people. We saw this equestrian property with this beautiful coverall arena and a roping arena, and we kind of gravitated toward that. And, but changes in the air. Eventually, when we found out that there was going to be a proposed on and off ramp at Karcher, right? That happened, that just opened up Karcher, and it was needed. I mean, you either had to get off, I guess, was it Franklin or Franklin? And it was a long stretch to try to get into that inner part of that area. So it made it a lot easier for us to commute. With Karcher, it brought some great stores, got Costco, a lot of places to dine and everything else. Of course, that takes infrastructure, and it takes the community to support that infrastructure, the commercial buildings and everything, to be patrons to be able to support it, right? Then, next thing we know, we're having a half-mile street being right on the edge of our property. To the left was a beautiful 40-acre parcel with cows. It was very rural 17 years ago, okay? But change needed to happen. Dakota Crossing was built. And then, got to support the infrastructure too. Housing was needed. We understood that. We kept our lifestyle there. This property has been used for over 20 years for horse training, clinics, equestrian activities. And I was surprised how many people in the community have actually, as kids, went there and the stories they could tell. So there's a lot of history about this place. Unfortunately, this place is not viable for the use that we intended it for right now. As stated, to try to get out of there in Karcher with a car, good luck. Try with a horse trailer. Yeah, not fun, not fun. So, we have been renting it out the last few years, and we can't really rent it out for that application anymore. So we decided, in a comp plan, looking at it, I mean, it's R2 commercial, R3. It's not really what's designed to be in this comp plan. Karcher needs to expand, no doubt about it, for years. I was just pulling weeds out there, and a car hit its brakes and almost got me in the front of the property. I mean, it is crazy out there. It needs to be expanded. When you build it, people will come. It's not going to get any better. The half-mile street, Celeste, needs to be expanded. I feel like a full-time fence builder. There's a fence that goes down. By the way, that leg of the property is 1,000 feet long. Okay, that's a lot of curb and gutter and landscape. 1,000 feet long for a 5-acre parcel. That's a lot of commitment, right? Well, cars constantly back up. My fence is only about that far from the road, from the pavement. You know, if somebody backs up, they're going to hit it. It happens all the time. It needs to be expanded. I'm tired of building fence. Really, as stated, I don't want to be redundant, but commercial is just not a viable option for this. The road frontage is very small due to a residential parcel right next to it. Okay, very small frontage. The way that the traffic runs, you only can make right-hand turns. It's not desirable for a commercial builder to want to buy that property. Most likely, if it was going to be zoned commercial, it's only going to be probably the front half. The back, you got to figure out what to do. And most likely, it's going to be R2, R3, or something. But you have to remember that for a builder to take this property on with 1,000 feet of infrastructure to put on that road and that commitment, they have to get return on value. For a 5-acre parcel, that's a lot. And that's not talking about the frontage also on Karcher, what they would have to do. So it's going to lend itself to more multifamily where you should get more bang for your buck on there. I can't see anybody commercial wanting this property. We've had it for a long time, and this is what was of interest, was this kind of development. As far as impact, there really isn't any to our, if you look to the east on this property, there's a well drilling company, and they're great neighbors. They keep their trucks meticulously parked. There's no trash. They're great neighbors, and they supported the equestrian events that went through there and everything else. Fantastic neighbors. To our left, there's couple parcels. I believe the front, I don't know if it's going to be commercial or not, but it's right off of Karcher. Right behind there, there's an area where it looks like at one time it was going to be single family, but it hasn't been developed. And you can see the houses start. On the left side, as you go down Celeste, heading north, you're going to notice that there's only 3 houses dotted through there in the connection with Celeste, all 2 stories. The vegetation has grown, mature vegetation. It's not going to affect them.
Just real quick, so that your 5 minutes just
Okay.
passed. You could take just another moment to go
Thank
ahead
you,
and
Mayor.
wrap up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Fine.
Okay, just a quick wrap up. When there's a 35-foot easement from the center of the road that is required for this project, or any project, I'm assuming, on this property, that 35 feet gets right into the house and halfway through the shop. So if I can't develop it, and let's say that the city approaches me and says, we're going to develop it, that's going to be potentially a extremely costly. What's my mortgage lender going to say when I say the house is going to be taken away? You know, we have to come some type of agreement. The house will not be able to use even for rental purposes because the house would have to leave. That's all I have to say. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you looking at this application.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming down. That's very helpful. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you so much. Next up is Alma Plusinski. Hopefully I got it right again. Perfect 2 times on one night. I don't know if that's ever happened. Very good. If you just state your name and address, and then 5 minutes is yours.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service to the community. I want to touch on something a little bit different. I think has been touched on, and I've heard some comments from some of the council members as well. We are small business owners, and the number one challenge we have right now is housing for employees. We have employees in Ontario, Emmett, Boise, formerly Caldwell, now Greenleaf, because they couldn't find anything in Caldwell. This development is 3.5 miles from our shop. My guys would love to be 3.5 miles from our shop. I think it would really go a long way in helping not just our small business, but other small businesses in the community with this real issue that we have of A, finding, and then B, retaining good employees, because the housing situation is just so tight. So that's really my comment on this. I think that in addition to being a property owner, obviously I support it, but I think even more importantly, as a business owner, and the fact that our community direly needs good quality multifamily housing. That's my comment. Thank you.
Very good. Do you mind stating your name and address just for
Oh
the
my
record?
gosh.
It's all right.
Obviously, I'm not perfect tonight. Alma Plazinski, 2945 First Lane East, Parma, Idaho, 83660.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
hold on one second, just in case is there any questions from council? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And last on the list indicated that did not want to testify, but just to make sure, Ryan, is it Rodim? Rodim? You're good. Okay, very good. So that is all that have signed up in favor. Nobody signed up in neutral, and we do have a pretty extensive list of opposition. Some have indicated not to testify, some do. But we'll just go through just to make sure on that. And again, if you would please limit any repetitive testimony, and your comments to 5 minutes or less would be appreciated, especially where we have so many people signed up. So first on the list is Chase Bedard. Do you wish to testify? Okay, come on down. If you would just state your name and address, and then again, if you could limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, would be much appreciated.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I come to you as a father. I come to you as a homeowner. To avoid repetition, I'm not going to go into what some of our other homeowners are going to discuss. I'm not going to play emotion into this, but I'm going to let you know that with a pregnant wife and a 4-year-old daughter, it's extremely terrifying coming home daily with the fear of being hit due to the bad congestion on Karcher. I agree there needs to be more affordable housing. This is not the place. The congestion and the traffic and everything that we will touch upon tonight, the overcapacity at schools, is the perfect example of why this plan does not need to go forward. We will present some great facts, and to avoid repetition, I'm not going to go into those. I just want to let you know that as a homeowner at 16149 Meander Creek Way at Dakota Crossing, I do not believe this project should go forward, and we will present that tonight to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for getting your address in there, so it's not enough to ask for it. Any questions from council? Okay, very good. Thank you so much, and appreciate your concise comments. Diane Riggs, do you wish to testify? Okay. Yes, please come forward, and if you would just state your name for the record and your address, and then limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, would be appreciated.
I'm short. My name is Diane Regas. I live at 12402 Karcher Road. I am on Karcher. I live in a house that's 100 years old. I live in the old Dr. LeBeau house, and I'm just on the other side of that property. There are going to be adjustments to Karcher. However, the problem I don't think is going to be necessarily, part of it is going to be Karcher, but the biggest problem I think is going to be on Celeste, because there's only going to be one exit unless you go all the way to Homedale. And there's so many apartments that they're wanting to put into that. There's no parking. You don't have 1.5 cars per house or apartment and expect that there's no parking for visitors. How many people have just one car? And there's not room on Celeste to be parking out on Celeste. So my biggest problem is the fact that the density is way too much. There's not enough parking spaces within that development, and it's gonna be putting a lot additional cars coming into, on Celeste. Celeste will not have a stoplight. And there's already subdivisions within that area. There is another subdivision that is being developed, which is 46 acres across the road, and that's farther down the line, of that property, and it's all gonna come out on Celeste. I feel that it's a beautiful piece of property, but I don't think it's, appropriate to put apartment buildings there. Thank you.
And any questions from any council members? Okay, thank you very much. Next on the list is Peggy, is it? Okay. Okay, Marilyn Dennis, do you wish to, okay. Okay, very good. Judy Barrett, I think it is, do you wish to, okay. Larry Bell, do you wish to speak? Okay. Yes, definitely come on down, and if you'll just state your name and address for the record, and then limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. So if you could wait till we need you on the mic, so. Debbie's amazing, but she can't get in unless you're on the microphone, so.
Okay, my name is Larry Bell. I live at 12456 Celeste. I've lived there about 8 years, which pretty much outdates anybody in Dakota Crossing. So I've seen this develop from basically nothing to a housing area. Celeste has become, before it was, when it was a dead end, it was problematic with 50-mile-an-hour speeds. Since the developing and through to Homedale, they've also added about 300 homes up there with another 300 to go at that very end. It is now, I set out with a speed gun just to watch, because the chief's not here right now. We've talked to the police, and they'll say, hey, look, this is getting crazy. We have people out here, we have kids out here, we have dogs out here, blah, blah, blah. Well, we'll put a radar trailer out there. That's never happened. You kind of get the idea you're being BS'd just a slight bit, which I understand. I've worked in that particular field, and there's some things you can and can't do. It's just the way it works. But right now, Celeste, the top speeds I've seen on Celeste have been 85 miles an hour. That's called racing from one end to the other, either coming off Karcher, going to the other end of Celeste, or they come from Celeste down, and by the time they get to the end of Celeste, obviously, they have to be down decent speed. The other part that we haven't seen so far is directly across from this place you're talking about is another proposed apartment area. Matter of fact, they didn't have permits at the time, and now there's material out there, but that's gonna be built too. So now you're gonna have two apartment areas around 96 units opposing each other, so you're gonna have traffic coming in there. That's right at the end of Celeste going on to Karcher. So how, without a stoplight, the problem's not gonna go away. Right now, going out on Karcher is a nightmare. As like somebody said, with a horse trailer, forget it. A lot of times, just sitting there, you may sit there 3 to 5 minutes, and if you're 5 or 6 cars back, a lot longer than that. It becomes very dangerous. And of course, I am opposed to it just for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Questions, Councilor McGee?
Mr. Mayor, it's probably not for Mr. Bell, it's probably for staff. Mr. Bell, you mentioned that there's an approved apartment complex across the street?
Not approved, I don't know that it's been approved, it was developed. Proposed, it was developed, they did start construction, and the people in Dakota Crossing did a little homework, they had no permits. So I don't know where that standard is right now.
Okay, I'm looking at Mr. Orton, just trying to figure out what the status perhaps of that might be.
Mayor, Councilman McGee, I'm wondering if we're talking about this area here, is that correct, right here? On the front of Dakota Crossing?
It would be right in front of Dakota Crossing along Karcher, which would actually go side by side with this unit here.
Okay, yes, so, my understanding, and maybe Alex can speak to this as well, my understanding is that there was a proposal to build multifamily here, and it's basically that situation that was characterized by the applicant on this that, the council said, no, we don't wanna see that commercial property being consumed for, multifamily. So they had started doing, excavation, cutting in roadways and things like that, and I think that project came to a stop because it was not, approved.
Thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Next is Ben Reese? Reese? Okay. If you'd please state your name and address for the record, and then limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Mayor, council members, thank you for inviting us in and hearing the case. I live at 12537 Deer Brush Court. So I work in the civil engineering field, and everybody's gonna harp on traffic, and I think that that's a huge point of contention with this, cause it's not safe. And the infrastructure, I don't think is really there to support that size of development. You know, I don't think that a development could go there, but it needs to be kind of consistent with the surrounding area, I think. Something high density is just gonna bring in way too much traffic, and make a already unsafe situation worse. I mean, my wife is, I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, and my wife's a second grade teacher at Valley View. And she was talking about, you know, how impacted the classrooms are at her school already. And I mean, the number being thrown out that this development would produce 10.1 kids, I think is kind of a little ridiculous. But, you know, I just think that you can't, I'm not gonna make an argument from kind of an emotional standpoint. I don't think you can really get good validation that way. But, you know, I would just ask that you guys really look at the situation and the conditions that exist there, and what this size and type of development would do to the surrounding communities and potentially hazards that it would create. I don't know about the roundabout turnaround, like U-turn things, but, you know, if you drive down Celeste and down Celeste and try to get onto Karcher in the morning at, you know, 8 o'clock, or come home in rush hour traffic, like that, the U-turn thing's not really gonna help you much, I don't think. So, and on top, I guess the other thing would just be utilities and infrastructure. Like, will the existing utilities and infrastructure support a community of that size? I mean, we already have issues with irrigation being intermittent because the usage is up just from our development. So I guess with that, that's kind of all I have.
Okay, excellent. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you so much. Rachel Reese, do you wish to?
She's not here.
She's not here, okay. William Jones?
Everybody touched on subjects I wanted to touch on, especially,
Okay, perfect. So we'll just state on the record that you're just in agreement with basically what's been said by the other neighbors. Okay. I can't see it, so, but you may have to let Councilor McGee know where you bought it, sounds like, so. Okay, Lisa Jones, I believe? Okay, Colleen George. So if you would just state your name and address for the record, and then if you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Colleen George, 12543 Toketee Street, Nampa, Idaho. Mostly my neighbors have pretty much talked about everything that I have on my list here. I don't know if you guys have driven Karcher Road. It is horrific. Horrific coming in the mornings, coming at night, school buses. It's just, I cannot imagine that they can put this amount of apartments in there with these amount of people. We already fought the other development, and we had them go from apartments to homes, which makes more sense. I mean, I'm willing to live with homes, that makes sense, but this multi-unit, I just don't think is gonna work. Anytime from 7 a.m. to 9:30 in the morning, you can't get out of the development. Starting about 3 to 6 at least, you cannot get in or out. Neighbors are down the street from us towards Midway. There's Brownstone, and Brownstone said that they were only gonna do right in and right out. That didn't work because they drove over the dividers, so there's no dividers now. Down at Canyon View, which is to the south of us, like you were saying, they have put in the barriers there, so people cannot use that entrance. They now go through the field to come out on the road, because they don't want, I mean, it is madness out there in that area. My question also is, where's the water coming from? Like Ben had stated, we started off as one development, we had our canal, we had a pump. We now share it with 2 other neighborhoods, I get that. But where's this coming from for these I'm not sure if they mentioned where the water's coming from, but I would like to know where it is coming from. The speed on that road starts at Midway or goes down to 35 at Midway. By the time it gets to Celeste, it's 55. And people don't pay attention. And 55 through there all the way out to say, you know, towards Marsing, it's nuts. You cannot do 55, especially through that Florida, Indiana, Celeste area. I'm just looking through we used to, 2 years ago, we had an 11-minute emergency services time frame for coming in. I don't know, we haven't done any sort of, he didn't look conveniently at the report, so I would like to know what our emergency time would be now that we do have a back way in now, but it's all 4-way stops to get there through Homedale. So we're still kind of trapped in our neighborhood. Water, however down the road. Canyon, I think that's about it. I'm nervous about the schools again, accidents, all that good stuff. I think that's it.
Quick question, the water, are you talking irrigation or drinking water?
I think I'm talking everything.
Okay.
I haven't heard anybody touch on water unless I missed it, so I'm curious about irrigation and water.
We'll let our public works director maybe chime in on that real quick, kind of showing where and what it'll come from, what's out there.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So there's a water network in Caldwell. We build main lines on the miles and the half miles. Karcher would be in that mile situation, and then Celeste would be in the half mile situation. So there's a good network of water that's connected to, we have 13 operable wells. We have a few old wells that we don't use anymore.
Okay.
And so the water, they're required to be able to develop, they have to satisfy the city specifications, show that they can get the fire flow, and so they're responsible to see that they can get the infrastructure there. So that will be taken care of.
Okay,
if it's approved.
yeah, I hadn't heard water one time, so I was curious about water.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Very good. Any questions from the council? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Jackie Beavers, you wish to? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Jennifer Mall?
I checked no.
Okay, yeah, just check. I just want to make sure you haven't changed your mind, so.
I think for incorrect.
You bet. Elizabeth Hines or Heiner? Okay. Okay. So if you just come up, give your name and address.
Elizabeth Heiner, 12526 Deerbrush Court. So I'm also part of the Dakota Crossing neighborhood. I grew up in Idaho. My parents, on both sides, their parents moved here, so I'm 3rd generation Idahoan. And I get the housing crisis. Like, we live in Caldwell, where most of our friends live in Boise, because this is where we could afford to live. And that's, we've actually come to really love it out here. But with the 96, like the previous person said, with a 96 development, unit development, where you have 1.5 parking spaces per unit, you're gonna have people parking on Celeste or anywhere else they can find. You can't drive by a high-density housing unit in the valley where you don't have people parking outside of the, like, expected parking spaces, because everybody has 2 cars, and, you know, parking is a huge issue, and that's just gonna create a greater, we have crashes out on Karcher all the time. The fencing that he's talking about on Celeste, like, there's not space, even if it's widened, for people to be parking out there, so that's it.
Good, thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it. Deborah and Matt Lebec? Okay, very good, thank you. Now let's go to the back side. Erica Maldonado? Okay. And then if you'll just state your name and address for the record, and then limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Sorry, this click here, is it just the right click? Okay, wonderful. So my name is Erica Maldonado. I'm at 12588 Algonquin, 83651. So I originally was not going to come to this meeting. However, I did come to the last planning and zoning meeting, and some of the challenges that I saw at that meeting made me want to come and just express my concerns for this build. So at the planning and zoning, it does state on there that there's a special use permit that was approved. However, like they stated before, it was not a unanimous decision. It was close to 11 p.m., and some of the board members, I feel that they just said yes, pass it along to city council member. However, the person that was that factor of yes or no originally was against the build. I'm so glad that Mr. Palmer is here. Valley View was also one of the other things. And just my concern, of course, for the students, but maybe lawsuits for not being able to house students, especially students with special needs. One of the planning and zoning members repeatedly said, and I believe I hope it's Wazinski, is that the owners, also said that affordable housing was one of the issues. However, I don't believe that these apartments would count as affordable housing. So I would vote no because of these main problems, specifically on Celeste, homes versus apartments, costs in the area, and of course Highway 55. My picture didn't load. So it's okay. So on Celeste, it is a very narrow road, 20 miles per hour, that is totally ignored at all times. It does create some kind of bottleneck effect with the new construction that's happening towards Homedale. They have widened it. This would also widen Celeste at the entrance from Highway 55. However, I don't believe that anything is put for the development of the center of Celeste. So originally my image on there was 2 vehicles. Those 2 vehicles barely fit in the center of Celeste. So again, unless that's being developed, it does create that bottleneck effect. With all of the homes that are in the area, we're looking at about 1,300 vehicles using Celeste from all 3 of the subdivisions that are already started, have started building or already exist. An additional apartment would create an additional 200 more cars using Celeste. Again, like was stated on Celeste, there are already no parking signs on the road. They're on the road because we have issues with people parking there, as is right now. Coming off of Highway 55, you turn directly onto Celeste, and if you can see on the image there on the left, there is discoloration on the fences where multiple people have backed up into the fence, run in, I'm assuming trying to miss maybe a parked car and hit the fence and just continue to drive off. But again, just letting you know, it is already posted, no parking, people still do it. Again, 2 vehicles per the units. I believe they said 1.5 parking spots. That's 192 parking spots just to have 2 vehicles per unit of apartment. And that's not what they're offering in their plans. And that doesn't include anything for guest parking. So where are the guests going to park? Again, Mr. Palmer was here with the school districts, just saying that they had, I don't have to repeat, our schools are our schools, right? They're growing. Affordable housing was something else that the planning and zoning and Mrs. Wazinski brought up. These are the current subdivisions that are built. There on the bottom left-hand corner, that's Dakota Crossing, that's us. We have about 100 homes already built. In the green section above, that is Windsor Creek East. They're just finishing their last phase. That's 275 homes. On the right side in the light gray, CBH is just starting Brittany Heights. It's a brand new site. They're just starting. I'm estimating about 275 homes. However, it wasn't posted online. With affordable housing, across the street, there is brownstone flats. So you're looking at about $1,575 per month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Windsor Creek also has housing, less expensive than the apartments that are across the street, right? The least expensive home is $1,545 per month, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So it kind of defeats the purpose of finding affordable housing for these apartments that everyone's talking about if the homes that are already built are not as expensive as these apartments that they're renting. Everyone has already said Highway 55. Here we have a picture of a cross that's directly across the street of where these apartments are being built. I believe Mr. Static also brought up that a road was already blocked off across the street from where this development is being planned because of the number of incidents and traffic going in from Highway 55. So again, just voting no, voting against, I would really encourage all of you to please pause builds on Highway 55 until everything else can be taken care of. Encourage the planning and zoning committees to talk to the school board so that they're not pointing fingers and saying 500 is enough. Okay, let's go ahead and approve it. And then of course, affordable housing, let's not confuse apartments to equal affordable housing, because as we can see, that's not the case. And of course, a few more of the residents from Dakota Crossing that are against, that might not have been able to be here today. And if you would like a list of more students or more residents, I would be happy to collect more names that are against. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any questions from the council? Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it. So we would ask to please limit the noise on that, so thank you, appreciate that. Emily Douglas, are you, very good. If you'll come forward, if you would please state your name and address, and then if you can limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Sure. And I apologize, my phone is dying, so I'm gonna try and see this as best I can. My name is Emily Douglas. I live at 12572 Dakota Crossing Street. Obviously, you've gathered that most of us from Dakota Crossing are here tonight, obviously in opposition of this development. A couple of things I wanted to clarify on the irrigation pump. We currently have 3 subdivisions that are running off of that pump, and it is a regular basis. We are calling and saying, hey, come turn our pump back on, come turn our pump back on, because it is just being completely overrun. I fully believe that if we are going to go ahead with this development, and I urge you not to, hopefully we can solve the pump problem in another way, that be put back on the developer. If they are going to add to the problem, at least they can help us try to solve a problem that we struggle with on a regular basis. And I'm a firm believer that infrastructure should come before development. There's a reason that we have planning and zoning. There's a reason that we set all of these plans in place. It's to make the best use of the land that we have. Canyon County is the largest agricultural area in the state of Idaho, and sadly that is being sucked up by homes and by developments, which is truly sad for me, coming from the agricultural world, that we are allowing overdevelopment of land that could be put to much better uses. I also wanted to mention that numbers don't lie. I'm a big fan of math. And when you do the numbers and you look at the statistics of 1.5 cars, 2 cars per household, when you pull up on Celeste and you force everyone to turn right, the majority of them are actually going to be headed back towards Nampa, Caldwell, Nampa and Meridian and Boise for work. We are the bedroom community of Boise. And so when you force people to turn right on Karcher and head out that way and then have to instantly merge left, make a complete U-turn, and head back the other direction, you are creating a huge bottleneck. I drive every morning. I drive my children to school, and I pick them up from school, and I drive that. And there is not enough space between where Karcher, where Celeste joins Karcher, to make a successful U-turn in that space and head back the other direction. I am really concerned about the accident potential there. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to conserve battery. Let's see here. When like I said, driving my kids to and from school, we are looking at often 11 to 15 minutes sitting at that intersection to turn out to be successful, because the lights are not timed to where that it is clear all at the same time. You'll have one direction and then you'll have the other. And so there's really not a great way for us to turn out there onto Karcher, like a lot of these guys have already mentioned. And as a point of perspective, and something that I want you guys to consider, something that hasn't been brought up yet, is looking at those who are supporting this development. Please look at where the money is going. The people who are here in support of that development are those that stand to benefit from the sale and the development of that property. It is not those of us that are homeowners that are there for the long term and are there and are paying our property taxes. So please consider that when you're making your decision, and I do encourage you to vote against this, because I don't feel like it's the best use of that land, and it's certainly not I don't think in the best, interest of the people and the residents who live there.
Any questions from the council? Okay, thank you very much. The last three indicated they don't want to testify, but again, just to check and make sure, Sari Judd, Devin Douglas, and David Chambers. Okay, very good. So just stating that they're in agreement of the opposition that's been presented to this point. So that concludes those signed up in opposition. So then we return back to the applicant. So if you want to come forward and provide your rebuttal testimony, and again, if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Mayor, council members, Nicolette Womack, 1100 West Idaho Street, number 210, Boise, Idaho 83702. Thank you for everyone's time tonight. We love when we have engaged neighborhoods. We love answering the hard, important questions, and so we stand ready to do that tonight. Can we have that presentation back up? Visuals are so important, so we never like to operate without them.
Mr. Mayor, while they're looking that up, it sounds like they have the same irrigation problem that we had over at the, community get-together that you and I attended. Pumps go off once they're sucking air.
Yeah, sounds like it. So maybe Brent can kind of talk about what it looks like out there, and then the improvements they'll have to do, if approved, if they have to do any to that, so.
So based on the current site, configuration, in terms of the best area to put multifamily, I think most, neighbors would say it's, a little bit further from us. So it's important to look at where we are, on this parcel. On the west side of us is right-of-way, which will create a natural buffer from adjacent neighbors. On the east of us is a canal, which also creates a natural buffer from future development to the east. And then adjacent to the single-family home that is on Karcher is the majority of our open space. So we have done our best to keep this buffered from everyone else. The project before us, it's important to think about the impact of the decisions we make, and we know that's on everyone's mind tonight. The project before us would generate about 100 students. This project, based on the accepted Treasure Valley calculations at the moment, would generate 10 students. So in general, it's important to think about what kinds of projects we're building and who they serve. This project will be at market rate, which means that the rents will be set by the time that it's actually built. This is not an affordable housing product, which you might see more neighborhood opposition for if it was something actually deemed affordable. There's a claim about being able to buy is just as affordable as renting, and those are completely different financial situations for a lot of people in our community. There was discussion about building infrastructure first, and Karcher, the improvements at Karcher and across the canal will be done prior to this project being completed. So we are seeing improvements happening in the area, and this will be on city services, sewer and water. In terms of traffic generation, traffic impact studies, they're created by licensed professionals who know what they're doing. They have the science behind this, and they are fairly evaluated across project to project. That's then reviewed by a city civil engineer, traffic professional, who can also verify that was done correctly. So this has been reviewed multiple times, and it's been accepted as accurate. That traffic impact study says that 80% of the trips would be going onto Karcher Road. So in terms of the impact to the north, we're not talking about that many trips. Again, this is in the area of impact. We know it will be developed at some point, and the question is, what's the right time to develop it? I would say we heard tonight that the roads are narrow and that they need funded, and we're offering to widen the roads and fund them. There are numerous traffic mitigation fees that we'll also be paying. Multifamily in general, it's widely accepted that the best place for it is at the intersection of high traffic roads. So we are an arterial and a collector roadway. If we put this middle of the block, you will see more traffic through people's neighborhoods. You won't, because it's near an intersection. I believe that was all that we had, prepared to say, so, I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Councilor McGee?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to make sure that I think I heard you correctly, but I want to understand this. We've talked a little bit earlier, and I think Brent touched on this, and that is the future ITD improvements that are going to take place on Highway 55. Is the timeline for this development then, did I hear you correctly saying that the timeline really runs parallel to the completion of those improvements? Is that right?
That is correct, and there are advantages of that when they're actually doing the construction, if they notice other issues, they can work on them all at the same time. And it impacts the neighbors less because they're digging up the road once.
And then, one more question about, Highway 55. If you go back to that slide where we talk, I think Brent called it the stretched roundabout. Brent, is that, I can't remember, is that already baked into the plan that ITD is moving forward with, or are they still receiving comment on that? Is that kind of a done deal? I can't remember.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McGee, yeah, it's a done deal. They did the original study to arrive at this. This is used widely in Michigan. It is referred to in three ways: the Michigan U-turn, the median U-turn, and the through turn.
And the loon.
So that would be applied across the corridor, and it does have good safety benefits.
Okay.
It was also designed, of course, by a 6 Mile Engineering.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, I guess what my point is regardless if we approve this tonight or not, that's going in that location.
Correct.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions from council for Ms. Womack? No. Maybe.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Councilman Allgood.
I just, could I get Ms. Womack to expand on what they will be doing on Celeste to improve Celeste along this area?
I'll defer to the civil engineer. I won't pretend I am one.
And maybe go to the map that kind of shows the Celeste. Okay. If you'd state your name and address.
Anthony Newton, 2071 East Wrightwood Drive, Meridian, Idaho, 83706. So when these parcels get developed, that the road, the half-mile road that we have here, Celeste, I would assume Dakota Crossing had to build out their half when that subdivision went in. The existing fence that has been talked about on Celeste, that's probably within a foot or two of the section line, historically. So, as developers come in, as we know, and on our project specifically, Justin, the developer, he's required by the city to improve Celeste out along the frontage of the entire property. So that would be, in this case, being a collector road, 35 feet from the section line of right-of-way dedication to include an additional lane, curb gutter, sidewalk, and a buffer.
And that roadway begins at Karcher Road, correct, and then goes north for that half-mile stretch or quarter-mile stretch, whatever it is. Is that correct?
Correct. From the intersection of Karcher is our frontage, and up to the tip of the odd-shaped parcel there.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Any other questions from council for Ms. Womack? Okay. And then with that, is there a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Stoddard and a second from Councilor Register to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so that would move us into, again, staff, if you have any questions regarding water, regarding traffic, any of that sort, staff is still available for questions on that. And then any discussions amongst yourself or questions amongst yourself as well. always applicable, yes.
Again, I wanna say, it pains me for a lot of reasons to have a problem with this, especially, in light of the fact that they've already said they're willing to help with Valley View. That's one of the things we're looking for, and I'd love to, reward a developer for that, but I just have a real problem with amending the comprehensive plan, and especially for a high-density, subdivision, and especially in an area where I know from personal experience, the problem with traffic. I just don't see it as being practical at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Register.
So I have a question and then a couple of comments. Has anybody reviewed the traffic study?
Mr. Mayor, Council Register, yes, so the engineering department reviews and approves the traffic studies.
Okay.
So, one of the
Oh.
questions.
Well, I guess I just have a couple of comments for council then. One, I really have a hard time believing that there's only gonna be 10 school-aged kids in this, apartment building or large complex. I didn't know if, I know public testimony is closed, but I was wondering if I could ask Mr. Palmer a question, or is that not allowed?
No, we're not being
Okay.
allowed.
Well, what I guess I was curious of, and maybe we can discuss this another time, is what, I can't remember what she called it, but what program or what you use at Caldwell School District as opposed to Ada County or Valley View, to determine how many kids per sub or something like that, but I'm gonna guess it's more than 10 in an apartment building. To be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated, when they talked about needing more affordable housing and then turning around saying it's not affordable. I feel like there should be some consistency there, like, it almost sounded like we were changing the argument to make a point. And, I understand that the people that come in and do the traffic studies know what they're doing, and that's kind of what they're paid to do. But I also think it's very important that we listen to the residents who are driving it every single day. They also know what they're doing. 80% of that traffic going on to Carter Road is pretty much what they said. And I'm curious, at what point in these bigger builds do we find out what the impact is on public safety to police and fire as well? I never hear that addressed. When we start adding in 96 units, does that cause a big pull onto our public safety as well? So those are my concerns with this, and I appreciate you guys showing up and giving your opinions on this.
Okay, I think any other comments, discussion in council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I'm still working on Celeste Avenue because it is not appropriate for the traffic that it's getting. Could Mr. Orton expand on what Celeste would look like after build out?
Mr. Mayor? Thank you, and members of council, Council President Allgood. So Celeste is a collector road. It's classified as a collector, and it's intended to ultimately be a 35-mile-an-hour road that collects traffic from subdivisions and delivers them to minor and principal arterials, the mile roads on the outsides. It's meant to be 6 feet wide at the end of the day. When these roads are built as a half street, because the development community builds that infrastructure, were it to be otherwise, it would mean the taxpayers would be bearing the cost of building that road so that it's ready for the development to come, and that's another principled question. But the point is that it'll end up being basically 3 lanes with some margin on either side. So it'll have room for a turn lane to safely make turns into or restore turning movements that are going into the developments on either side, and a travel lane in each direction, and it has room for bike lanes on either side. So that's the standard section. You can look that up. Anyone who's interested can look that up at the supplemental specifications under the engineering department tab on the city's website. You can look at what those street sections are meant to be.
And will that include a sidewalk on the east side of Celeste as well?
Yes, ultimate build, true better sidewalk, both sides, 7-foot sidewalks, I believe.
Okay.
And would that allow room for parking on the east side as well? On the street?
It's not contemplated that parking be part of collector roadways. We don't want to have parking there. The bike lane, we try to design the bike lane so they're just small enough that they don't accommodate people parking, obviously they're not supposed to park in those. So no, it doesn't accommodate parking.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, any other questions, Councilman Allgood?
No, that was it.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? Councilor McGee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll just add this quickly. I agree with Jeff, with Councilman, in that these are the kind of projects that we're looking for, right? I think we are. I think we're looking for higher quality, availability for people to stay here. The issue clearly, and we've talked about it now for several minutes, and that is, where it's gonna be potentially located, right? And that's what gives me heartburn about it. I too travel that road often. I know Councilman Stoddard does as well, and I've got a daughter who's 14 who's about to start driving, and it just makes me very nervous about her driving on that road. The thing that really concerns me as well is if you read our agenda, it says the comprehensive plan amendment and annexation were recommended for denial by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm an elected member of the city council. I don't have to agree with the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I certainly do weigh their opinion in making decisions. And both of those were, they were recommended to be denied. And so, and I think these projects are good. I don't want the message coming from the city council, coming from me anyway, that we don't like these types of projects, because we do. I do, however, have concerns about where this is located, even with the expansion of Karcher Road, Highway 55.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just
Councilor
have one
Stark.
more thing. Because of what you have brought to our attention, at least for Celeste, I'm going to get with the police chief and see if they'll bring that radar trailer out onto Celeste between, I guess, Karcher and Moss, to see about taking a look at that.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? So yes, please hold the applause. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilor Allgood, any other comments or?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So the motion is in order at any time unless there's further discussion from council. And I can't make it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor, is that Councilor Allgood?
Yeah, I'll go ahead with this motion. The city council accepts the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and recommendations herein. Based on the findings of facts, conclusions of law, the mayor and city council order case number CPM 22-000002 and ANN 22-00005 and SUP 22-00005, a request for comprehensive plan map amendment for 5.95 acres to modify the designation from highway corridor to high-density residential. Concurrently, a request for the annexation of 5.95 acres, parcels numbered R32786 and R327851010, with zoning designation of R3 multifamily high-density residential, and a preliminary plat for Karcher Village is denied as written so far.
And then, Councilor Allgood, would you be good with an amendment to that to not include SUP 22-5, because that was through the Planning and Zoning Commission and not a part of this request tonight?
Yes, I would be good with that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, the motion also included a reference to a preliminary plat, which is also inapplicable.
Yep, and then did you hear that, Councilman Allgood?
I did, yes.
Okay, so striking those two, would that be amenable for your motion?
That would.
Okay, very good. Okay, so very well, very clear. So that was, in case you didn't hear that, Councilman Allgood, it's 4.95 acres as well, so we'll make that additional amendment to the motion if you're agreeable to that.
I am.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion from Councilman Allgood for denial of the request. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a second from Counselor Williams. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Aldred,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Redster,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Very good. So with that, it is unanimous for the denial. Typically with the denial, reasons are stated, and so I'll state some of those, like just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Synopsis of the council. It sounds like, location was a concern, traffic was a concern, like the project, the product that's being proposed, just felt that it was not the right place and the right time, for that development at that location. I think that summarizes the denial. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to, we lost a couple people, but is there a motion to close this public hearing item?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second to close this public hearing item. We still do have, a quorum here with us. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that passes and that closes that public hearing item. So we will take a short 10-minute recess, and then we'll be back to finish up the rest of the items.
Joey? 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 So did you reach any kind of agreement with this other guy? Five seat committee?
I don't know, we've kind of, we haven't yet, but we brought up fighting, we got one of the commissioners that actually drove that step down, and we said, no, no. He went to the Valley View School District and asked them to sue the city for us improving.
No.
And Joey Palmer.
Yeah, you did.
Well, attest to that. But he told him,
Mom, yeah.
who was it? Like Bruce? He's a new one on there, I've never met him, but anyway. And he's just awesome. So, after we need to get rid of him, but he's gonna make a huge deal out of it. So I'm almost thinking we just wipe it clean and start over. I mean, so we kinda have they're not very engaged. Yeah, and I mean, it was a nightmare, like they got the 3-2 vote, because I guess somebody was after, which really killed, it kills me. It's as if it's in denial, but they're like, no, we have to have it. So somebody jumped ship and voted to the yes. At 11 o'clock at night. While we're on a break. Yeah. So, that, even though it's a Nampa zip code, that's what Caldwell city limits are at. The zip code, the zip codes were established, 100 years ago by the federal government. It's all over, my friend. So we have nothing to do with that. So the city limits kind of goes in and out. That's where the city, Caldwell City Water, Caldwell Sewer is at, so they're contiguous to Caldwell City. Nampa's close, so those apartments bottom right, that's Nampa, so that is city of Nampa. Right there. Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah.
Okay.
Out of here. I guess that's good. We don't want to see him stick
Good
around.
job.
He can stay, cause he can save a amount of money, whether he did till midnight or 9 p.m.
Probably renewing the license.
Yeah.
Let's see, consider the manual. Oh, I will. Yeah.
I'm just not drinking water like you guys. We're close. Yeah, yeah, he's coming out, so, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we gotta keep sticking around, so,
Yeah, we'll
not too
talk.
much though. So, yeah, you have a good night.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about Tammy Caldwell sometime. We can do it at lunch. Oh, really? Oh, really? Caldwell came? Really? I never met him.
That's how they have been doing it, so, yeah,
Because he's gonna attend our concerned citizen Canyon County meeting next week, so I think.
Yeah, I couldn't get his name. I was like,
Yeah, well, we understand.
I'm glad I didn't think he was listening.
Yeah, yeah, because I think we can work closely together there. Give me hollers, dates, time. That's the hard part. Okay, sounds good, we're good. Okay.
Well, he's ready to go on top.
Trust me. It's, sorry I had to get up this run. I was, yeah, it was all I could do to make it through that. I know.
What's that Texas hat you got on there? No.
I really wish we were approving that for someone else.
I spent some time, retired from Simplot Company, their computer division.
I mean that sincerely, I wish we were approving that.
San Antonio.
A big operation.
Like when I moved
They're right on the border with New Mexico.
I didn't, I don't know.
Long time.
Do they take 10 minutes?
Oh, is that right?
Or do they put a time? We always say 5.
I didn't.
And we were up to Amarillo too for quite a while, looking at places up there. Yeah. The weather is not conducive for canoeing, though. Too many storms come through there, ruin the crops, so we didn't do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you bet. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate that too. Without you people like that, we wouldn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dave doesn't say that, I mean, that's what I about, because I said, it works good, because she's totally out of the picture. Yeah, not that it isn't for, but it can't diagnose what she wants. I get it.
Absolutely. Well, I live off of South Florida between Orchard and Karcher, so I travel that every doggone day, so. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So is she here? Do you want to come in, so we get back on, you can recognize?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, you too. Yeah, you bet.
Good night. Thank you for being here.
Better take a picture.
Oh, yeah, okay, let me just,
Yeah.
well, why don't you guys all come and I'll take a
No,
picture?
it's too much. Let the mayor handle it. I'm not dressed appropriate.
Sure, they're like, who's that bum in the picture?
Right?
Guy that
Wanna
walks
borrow my
by?
coat?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to borrow your coat. You should just have them hanging here so I can fill in what's going on.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll take that back. Sabrina came in and supported us, but nobody was in opposition.
And Sabrina can do that anyway. So,
I'm so excited about my new clothes.
You
Yeah.
need someplace.
Can I wear it to the shop?
Huh?
I'll probably get grease on
Been
it.
someplace before.
yes, you have.
But he'll look nice anyway. You did
For
a
a minute.
great job on the award.
I'm so sorry I missed that meeting. I was intending to be there, and everybody had to go, and I was left alone at the shop. My boss had to leave, and he kind of felt bad because I told him, hey, I'm gonna take my lunch, and it's gonna be a long one, and it's gonna be in it, and then things just grew a life of their own, and I would have loved, especially that topic, to have been there in it. It's so necessary, yeah.
I really did not know all the classifications.
It's just, it's a toxin that has permeated our society, and it's, it's maddening because people that you would never believe victims of that poison are falling victim to it, and
You're happy. You're happy.
Looking at the list. That one, right? I don't know how that happened.
no, it is.
Well, they can
Really bad, and it pains me to not participate more.
I don't either.
Didn't check a lot of boxes.
You got it.
Folders, office inventory, personal inventory.
That's a good thing.
October is a lot more likely I can get away. Just don't plant it when I'm gonna be gone in October. I guess I bet, no, I need to go see my dad. I haven't seen my dad in over a year. Oh.
It's always that last, that would have been in front of mine.
Be under 10 minutes?
No, I haven't even made a plan yet, so I'll put that in my calendar right now.
Bam Jam. Check it out.
John, aren't you the golf guy? Or is that you?
I think John's on golf board.
You the golf guy?
John's
the golf guy?
Okay, so we are all back and in session again, so I think we are rolling, right, Debbie? Okay, very good. So we just finished action item number 6, so that moves us on to action item number 7. And this is to consider bill number 43, ordinance number 3437, amending the Caldwell City Code, Chapter 6, Article 17, Section 6713, pertaining to the approval required for alcohol beverage licenses within the city center zone, with a request to move for its passage by title only and approve the summary for publication. Mr. Waterman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is, classified as sort of a clerical ordinance meant to, make sure the code aligns with the standard practice for approving alcohol licenses. It's been the practice in the past to include those in the consent calendar. ABC, who I guess we don't have a direct connection with anymore, but, spoke with Ms. Geyer about the fact that the code appeared to, necessitate a public hearing where, only a hearing is required to approve licenses that are within a certain distance of schools and churches. And at the last meeting, my understanding is that you actually had a couple public hearings on those licenses, which was, again, outside the norm of what is the practice has been in the past. So this change simply strikes through the public hearing obligation in the code for approving those waivers, is a fine word for it, and returns it back to being, as I understand it, the practice that it's been in the past.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions from council for Mr. Waterman? Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So this is, okay, so we don't have a sign-up sheet for this one, right, Debbie? Okay, very good. So it does have a summary for publication, this was noticed. So again, this is an action item for consideration of bill number 43, ordinance number 3437, amending the Caldwell City Code pertaining to the approval required for alcohol beverage licenses. Again, just going with the practice that's been in place for many years, just realized that there was an additional public hearing which has really never occurred. It did that last one, and that's where we caught it. Thanks to the good folks at ISP that pointed it out for us. So now we get to fix it, so we don't have to worry about that in the future. So I'll read the title, ordinance and bill by title only. An ordinance enacted by the Caldwell City Council amending Chapter 6, Article 7, Section 6713, Caldwell City Code pertaining to the approval required for licenses exception to apply, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith. If you'll notice, in our consent calendar, we did the waiving of the 3 reading rule already, so we don't have to motion for that, so we can go straight into the sponsorship of this ordinance and bill. If there's anybody that'd like to do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Williams.
I move to sponsor bill number 43, ordinance number 3437, to amend the Caldwell City Code, Chapter 6, Article 17, Section 060713. Do I need to read the whole thing? You just did, right?
So, yeah, I mean, just you can say,
I so move.
okay, to request to move for its passage by title only and approve the summary for publication as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion from Councilor Williams and a second from Councilor Doty, to approve, or for the passage of ordinance number 3437, bill number 43, by title only and a summary for publication. Madam Geyer, if you please call the roll.
Williams,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
McGee.
Very good. And that is approved. So that moves us on to action item number 8. Consider bill number 44, ordinance number 3438, annexing Klamath Falls subdivision phase 2 into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District for passage by title only, no summary for publication. Mr. Orton.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to give you just a quick summary for both items 8 and 9. They're very similar, identical for 2 different developments. And if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just address the question about irrigation that arose and didn't end up coming to further discussion. So the way that works with a development, they are required to, let's say they wanted to get on the Dakota Crossing pump station, and I won't talk more about that since it's, I guess, subject to appeal. But the point is that a developer would have to, we would encourage them to reuse an existing pump station, but they would have to upgrade that pump station. Another thing to know that's important for the citizens' sake is that we have pretty great water rights here, really. 9 gallons per minute per acre is typical water right in Pioneers District, and most of Caldwell is in Pioneers District. That can be problematic, though. Still, we can't build a station that pumps more than the water right. In farming practice, we might have a farmer that takes 5 times his water right in terms of the flow rate, but he's worked that out with his neighbor, and then his neighbor's going to do the same thing tomorrow. Well, when everyone needs to have access to it simultaneously, that doesn't work. So it has to be that we can only take our water right. And so it is possible for a development to overpump the pump station and shut it down by having too much demand. There is a solution to that, and that is we ask people to do odd-even watering. If your address is an odd number, water on odd days. If it's an even number, water on even days. That's the odd-even thing is sometimes overly complex, perhaps, to people, and some people's sprinkler clocks don't do it. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that we don't all water at the same time. So if we can get the citizens on board with the idea of we don't all water at the same time, they would have a way better experience. And these folks who've said, oh man, we had to call the irrigation department out to turn our pump station back on over and over. And we have things we're working on to make the whole system better, as well as moving towards regional stations, interconnecting stations so that if one goes down, that they still have water, et cetera, but that's going to take a long time. It is an important point as for us to know and for you to know as our leaders that that we can have a better experience in our subdivisions if people are just willing to agree with each other. Well, I'm going to water on this day and you water on that day. And then, maybe we even invite the Zamzos to come and talk in a public meeting. Nampa did that with their drought task force and had a great turnout from the public. The value there being to hear from experts like the Zamzos that if you water your grass every day, you're raising a feeble crop of grass. It needs to be forced to grow its roots deeper, and that won't happen if it's watered every day. And so there's benefits to the health of their lawns too. Anyhow, forgive me for the diatribe, but that's what's going to help these folks. And then yes, we do require each developer to see that they've covered the bases for being able to deliver that water right.
We have 2 minutes left in this.
Okay, having misused my time there. This is a request for both items 8 and 9. The developer is requesting to be annexed into the municipal irrigation district, which basically says we're a delivery agent for the irrigation entity. They're organized under Title 42 and 43 of Idaho Code. We're organized as an irrigation entity under Title 50, which basically means we pay them for the water, and then we charge our customer for the water and an additional fee to pressurize that water and take care of the pump stations, pay for electricity, et cetera. And so they've asked to be annexed, and this would be then the opportunity to accept their request and annex them into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. So it's distinct, of course, from annexation into the incorporated limits of the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll read this by title only and then stand for a motion for its passage. Bill number 44, ordinance number 3438, an ordinance of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges and providing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
I move for bill number 44, ordinance number 3438, annexing Klamath Falls subdivision phase 2 into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District for passage by title only.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
I guess a motion from Councilor Doty and second from Councilor Stoddard for passage of bill number 44, ordinance number 3438, by title only. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Doty,
Yes.
Stoddard,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
McGee. Yes. Allgood,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Good, and that motion passes. So that moves us on to action item number 9. We're just gonna hit the replay in our heads of what Brent just said. So he's good there, so we don't need him to come back and forward, because he already addressed it. So I will read this bill and ordinance by its title only. Bill number 45, ordinance number 3439, an ordinance of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges and providing an effective date. And this is for Shadow Glen subdivision, phase number 1.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
I move that bill number 45, ordinance number 3439, annexing Shadow Glen subdivision phase 1 into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District for passage by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilor Doty, second from Councilor Stoddard for passage of bill number 45, ordinance number 3439 by title only. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Doty,
Yes.
Stoddard,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Very good. That item passes unanimously. And thank you to our wonderful attorney for the recommendation to move that waiving the three reading rule into the consent calendar. That was so much easier and better, so.
I, your mediocre attorney, will pass that along to your wonderful attorney.
Very good. Thank you so much. You knew who I was talking about, so. That's great, yes, sir. Okay, so that moves us to number 10, consider acceptance of the finance report. Mr. or Counselor Williams.
Mr. Mayor, I move the accounts payable in the amount of $2,482,305.74, represented by check numbers 163550 through 163884, and payroll for the amount of $494,143.36, represented by checks number 37464 through 37501, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Williams and a second from Counselor Doty for approval of the finance report as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So that moves us to council reports. Councilman Allgood, let's start with you out in cyberspace land.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I don't have anything this evening. Thank you guys for putting up with me on Zoom. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I know Counselor Williams and I don't think Counselor McGee minded at all because they got lots of room to spread out over here. So they're enjoying it. So, Counselor McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have something, I'll make it quick, but I want this to be representative of how the city council and the mayor listen to people, listen to our constituents. James Miller, who many of you probably know, he was a security guard at College of Idaho for many years. He's retired now. Great guy, sent me a message saying that he had recently started paying his water sewer bill online, but continued to receive the statement in the mail. The statement also had a pay envelope in it. And so Mr. Miller asked me, you know, is there a way to make sure that those people who were paying online didn't receive those envelopes as a way to save money? So I sent an email to Debbie, because Debbie knows everything, and asked her who to talk to, and she sent me to Michelle. And Michelle looked into it and said that the supplier who does that for us can indeed do that. Now, that'll save about $700 a year. Now, that's in a budget of $122 million. That's kind of small potatoes. But I think hopefully what it does is it shows the people in our community that if they write their councilman or if they write their mayor, that the mayor and the council is responsive, and we are always looking for ways to save money. So it was just, I think, a good example of a citizen who saw something that we could do better, and we did it.
Very good. Yep, that's right. It adds up over time. So thank you so much. Counselor Williams.
I got a list, but I'm going to make it short because it's already been too long a night. First of all, I regret that Ms. Mitchell already left, but I wanted to appreciate her and thank her for all of her hard work for the city over the years, and just wish her well in wherever she may go. Wish her the best, obviously. Also, just wanted to mention, I got into Firehouse 1 for the first time, and that's a really nice firehouse. That second floor up there is a whole lot nicer than the building looks from the outside. Got to have dinner with, I think it was Team 1, but, or A, might be wrong with that, but anyway, all that, and then a couple of things. I would love to revisit the day we hold council meeting, simply because I find it a real challenge to get through the packet in time for the council meeting. Not having the weekend, because I have a full-time job that my boss requires me to actually do, has proven to be a challenge for me. And having the weekend for the packet, I don't want to say is necessary, because I don't want to overstate it, but I don't want to be responsible for a packet that I haven't been through, that I haven't been able to digest. And I certainly don't want to be voting on things where I haven't taken advantage of the material provided to me. I expect that it's provided to me with the intention that I go through it, not just that somebody can say, we sent it to you and it's there. So I don't know that it would have to be Monday again. It could possibly be Tuesday, and we could still get the packet then Friday night, but I would love to revisit that topic. I know we said we would try it, and I was in favor of it. I voted for it. I saw no reason to vote against it. I do now, just simply for the fact that I need more time to digest 400 pages before I get in to city council meeting. And then the other thing I wanted to be sure and go on record saying, and I know we're probably all aware of this, but I think it's important for us to recognize we most definitely are in a recession. The signs of the times are not looking good. Obviously, it's a prognostication, which direction we're going and how far things will go and how low things will go, but prevailing wisdom says now is the time to be conservative, to hold the line. And so I just think as we move forward, especially in budget season, we need to especially take that into account. There's a lot more we could talk about. I've taken more time than I wanted to already tonight, but I think those are probably the most important things on the list, and I'll let the other things go for 2 weeks from now, maybe.
Right, good. And Debbie may hit me in the back of the head for saying this, but I think that we could maybe still provide that, leave it the same night and do the Friday cutoff. It's something we can look at, because I think legally we could do that. But, so that's an option too. Yeah, so we just make them get it to us on Friday.
Yeah, so practically speaking, I don't know what the consequence would be. In theory, you have the same window of time to prepare the packet. It's just shifted. It makes council somewhat slower to be able to respond to things, because if something comes up, it would push the 3-day push right over the weekend in terms of something comes in that you want to act on. The person that can answer the question is the clerk's office, I think.
Maybe question then, is this something we could put on the agenda for 2 weeks from now to discuss and get input from the council and see where we're at on this?
Yeah, and it can always, 2 weeks to think about it, digest it, and then under council reports, discuss it some more, so. Could just be under that too, so you don't have to do a workshop or, I don't think you're looking for an action item for 2 weeks, just more discussion, so.
Looking for an action item.
Yeah, I'm wanting to move it. I don't know what the appetite of the council is though, so I can't obviously speak for the council.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like having a Friday, the day after we're here really late, but, because if you did want to move it to Wednesday, that gives you that one day to, I guess, then that would move that to Friday, so, but.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
My boss is a little more lenient than Councilman Williams, but I concur. Thursday, a Monday or two, going back to a Monday or a Tuesday would work better in my situation as well. I believe, as Councilman Doty just said, I believe maybe putting it on for something for us to consider and vote on in a couple weeks might be good.
Good. Okay. Councilor Doty.
I'm guessing you're gonna mention Bam Jam yourself here towards the end, so I'll just.
I can add it to my list.
Making some comments.
Councilor Stoddard.
As far as the Call of Veterans deal, we're gonna add another PTS counselor for the folks over there, which is gonna help us enormously, because it'll be almost a full time every day of the week for 8 hours, which will help a lot of those folks. The AC problem was corrected by Carter Company, and I guess they did it in 15 minutes, and the other folks couldn't figure it out or something, and so whoever Carter Company is, that's great, Brent, so they really appreciate that. Oh, is that right? Yeah. Okay, anyway, they do a good job, so that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Good, thank you. Councilor Register.
I don't really have anything. I was gonna thank Carol for her service. It looks like she already went home, so.
She's home in bed probably by now.
You wanna just pass that on?
Yes, definitely. And I know there's a little kind of get together on the 11th, at noon at City Hall, if you wish to come on that. So yeah, so BAM, I'll be quick. I got a few, but I'll go through this real fast. BAM Jam is this weekend, Friday to Sunday. One of the biggest 3-on-3 tournaments in the Northwest, not just Idaho. So that's a big deal for downtown Caldwell. So they'll be setting up tomorrow. I actually volunteered to go out there and help them a little bit. So I'm excited to have them back. I know we did some hard recruiting with them to get them to come back because they weren't looking at it. I'm not. I was looking into it. My boys are. But I know we looked at doing some fundraising, like maybe a shootout with the mayor, 3-point contest, but they got so busy. So next year, hopefully we'll be able to do that. But it is a big deal, and it brings thousands and thousands of people to downtown Caldwell. Castle Peak was kind of mentioned by Councilor Stoddard earlier in the evening. Brent and I had a great discussion the other day. He's looking into getting some information from me, and I'll be following up with them on some of the things we've been figuring out on that. So I'm looking forward to talk to them on that. The staff meeting that you all saw, so we have that on Tuesday and breakfast for all city staff. Everyone's invited to come down to help serve and do that. I know some of you are going to be out of town, not available, but that's Tuesday at 8 a.m. Down at O'Connor Fieldhouse. So we're excited for that. Staff's excited. So just another thing to just kind of something different to do and set us apart from other entities. Caldwell Night Rodeo, just a reminder that that's coming up in a week and a half. So look forward to that coming to the city. That's a great thing. And then also the Buckaroo Breakfast. I think there's still a few slots available if you want to volunteer to go down there and help with that. I know that Jerry would really appreciate it. And we're doing a little contest in the city. So I threw out a pizza party to whichever the department gets the most people out to do that because they were looking for it. And we've actually had a really great response from the employees. Debbie's been rounding up people at City Hall. So it's been actually fun to see the employees respond to that. So, and helping out a great cause. So we're looking forward to that. And then maybe the last item, and maybe get a little feedback from the council. Obviously no decision, but just if you could give a little guidance. Brent, can you go to U-Stick and the freeway? And while he's going there, I'm sure I could just say it, and you'll know it, the paintball place that's right there on U-Stick and the freeway. They want to expand. They're kind of landlocked, if you can zoom in there. And so they want to lease property from the city. They would have to do a rezone of that portion of that property. And obviously that would have to all be approved by the city council. Even giving them the opportunity to request it, they'd have to have the city council sign off on the application because we own it. But anyway, just to see, there's pros and cons both ways. It's a great business and they are tight on space, but again, it's right next to the airport. That's planned for airport runways, city property. Do we want to start going down that road of letting other people rezone city property for their use? And so like I said, there's, pros and cons on both sides. So I know they're wanting to kind of see if they could do an application, but let's get the flavor of the council, if they'd even sign an application for that. So any thoughts or, again, not making any decisions, but just any guidance or direction on that?
Property for the runway, like in the future, or?
So, well, the runway's on the other side, but I think just more of approach.
That threw me off a little bit.
Touch on that.
Yeah, runway protection zone and object-free area. So that applies to the existing runway. Our expansion of that runway ultimately will be on the north side, right across Linden. And so that's where we'll have a change in that runway protection zone and object-free area. I think it's already in place here. It will change slightly, actually, because we're going to shorten the runway I can't remember, Councilman Stoddard. I think we're it could only be like 100 feet or something. We're going to shorten it away from U-Stick a little bit when it's extended ultimately. But it's essentially where it's going to be now down here on the city property. And I can't tell you off the top, when you look at the airport layout plan, and we'd be able to see if that property is within that object-free area or not. If it's not, then we can lease it for uses. We may have to just double check it with the FAA because I think it's obligated property that we bought with their grant money.
So it sounds like, we need to go through a couple of hoops before we could even talk about it, including the FAA, right? Okay.
So yeah, maybe do a little more research on it. Let's see if it was part of that, and then that could answer the question right there. If it has to be used for airport, then that shuts it down. If not, then we can kind of get some guidance from council on that.
Touch the wheels.
Or shoot him with your paintball. Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Paintball.
Okay, that's all I had for mayor's comments. So with that, we do have an executive session planned, so we'll try to get right into that. So the executive session pursuant to, or I guess the person who makes the motion needs to read that, don't they? So whoever makes the motion, they could read basically verbatim what's in the agenda, and then we'll go from there. Councilman McGee.
I move that the city council go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code
Section 74206, subsection 1A, for the purpose of discussing the hiring of public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Also, subsection 1B, for the purpose of discussing the evaluation, dismissal, disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, and subsection 1C, for the purpose of discussing the acquisition of or an interest in real property not owned by a public.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So the motion from Counselor McGee, second from Counselor Stoddard to go into executive session as detailed in the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
McGee? Doty?
Yes.
Allgood?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Sonic?
Yes.
Register?
Yes.
Very good. That motion passes, and we are in executive session. So we'll just give a moment for Debbie to shut things down and clear the chamber. That's not you, Chief. You don't get to clear the chamber.
We need a live stream.
And we'll get the live stream down, but leave the Zoom on for Councilman All Good.